Chapter 1684. I hit it well. Lin Feng smiled. Qilu nodded and didn't have any doubts. He just casually asked, "If I had known earlier, I would have found a better space treasure to hide my things. This time, I was caught by the Heaven's Mandate race, and all my belongings were plundered." Lin Feng smiled and then took out 100 void crystals and stuffed them into Qi Lu's hands. "Take them." "How can I?" Qi Lu was startled and refused repeatedly. "Father said that I can't accept other people's kindness." "This is not a kindness. This is your reward." Lin Feng said, "If you hadn't bargained for me just now, I would only have 200 space crystals on me. But now that I have 1,000 space crystals, it means that you have helped me earn 800 space crystals. 100 space crystals as your reward isn't much, right?" "This." Qi Lu was stunned for a while. He frowned and thought about it carefully, but he felt something was wrong, but he couldn't tell. "Take it, treat it as an emergency, or I can lend it to you. Anyway, go back to your clan first. Lest your father worry," Lin Feng said. "It won't be too late to return it to me after you return to your clan." Qi Lu bit his lips and thought about it seriously, then raised his head. "Then, just treat it as if I borrowed it from you, Brother Lin. Is that okay?" "Good." Lin Feng smiled. "Many thanks, Brother Lin. I will definitely return it to you." Qi Lu's face became serious, and he bowed his head to express his gratitude. "Then, I will go and issue the mission, Brother Lin. See you then. We will meet again." Goodbye. Lin Feng sent Qi Lu off. Since it was fate, he would help if he could. Weighing the remaining 900 void crystals in his hand, Lin Feng pondered for a while and then went to buy a space cultivation room and some daily necessities. 900 space crystals were not a lot, but it was enough for him to live in Origin Awakened Continent for the time being. Although Mission Valley was not big, it was relatively safe. Lin Feng found a big tree in the valley, opened a space cultivation room, and entered it. Under normal circumstances, the space cultivation room was a fist-sized light spot, like a firefly from a distance. The interior of the spatial cultivation room was very simple and crude. It was an independent spatial world. Like the void of the starry sky, it was pitch black. Numerous grids enveloped this lonely world. Because it was connected to Origin Awakened Continent, cultivating here was the same as cultivating in Origin Awakened Continent. There was nothing special about it. It was just a quiet place where one could cultivate without any distractions. Of course, it was relatively safe. Sitting cross-legged in the space cultivation room, Lin Feng combed through all the information. After obtaining all of Tai Dong's memories, he also understood a lot about the entire Origin Awakened Continent. Just as the cool Strange Wings King had said, this place was full of opportunities. There were 10,000 evil region, Ghost City, Earth Cliff, and other 18 natural dangers. There were also countless ordinary training grounds. There was also the Origin Enlightened Sea, the Nether Race's Hell, the Heaven's Fate World, and the most mysterious and unknown Turbulent Void. In Tai Dong's memories, Origin Awakened Continent seemed to be endless. Every once in a while, the area would change, and treasures would appear, and new races would appear. In fact, Origin Awakened Continent would become bigger, and its energy would become more abundant. This was no longer a secret in Origin Awakened Continent. It was just that no one could explain it, because they don't know that Origin Awakened Continent itself is the core of a wandering planet. Wandering planets are unique planets that feed on spatial energy. Space is endless, so absorbing spatial energy will cause Origin Awakened Continent to change at every moment. Naturally, it is endless. Although it was his first time in Origin Awakened Continent, Lin Feng had a more thorough understanding of this place. His previous conversation with I Ching had benefited him a lot. He had dissected the essence of Origin Awakened Continent. With the changes in space and the changes in the region, coupled with the uniqueness of the wandering planet itself, it created one natural danger zone after another. There were endless treasures. Just the currency here, the void crystal, was not ordinary. It was a crystallization of spatial energy. For experts with poor spatial talent, the void crystal could be said to be the best cultivation treasure. For example, his own T-Rex clone. Actually, accepting missions in Mission Valley is not bad. I can come into contact with Origin Awakened Continent more and get to know more companions. With my current situation, I need to temper myself, more stimulation and opportunities. Lin Feng knew clearly. If he only relied on his own bitter training, it was impossible for him to become a Black Region Master in 10,000 years. It was not difficult, it was impossible. Accepting missions in Mission Valley is not difficult, but first, I need to verify my strength and identity. This was the rule of Mission Valley. Every mission had a fixed number of stars. For example, some missions could only be accepted by 3-star experts and above, some missions could only be accepted by 4-star experts, etc. 1-star experts were more of an identity verification and had no use. 2-star experts were the threshold for a top-notch Black Region Master. 3-star experts were perfect for a top-notch Black Region Master. 4-star experts were the pinnacle of top-notch Black Region Master. The number of stars here represented combat strength, not strength. In other words, as long as you were a Black Region Master, even if you were an ordinary Black Region Master, you could become a 3-star or 4-star expert if your combat strength reached that level. Of course, such examples were rare. Combat strength and strength were often closely related. The number of stars was verified in the Emperor's Star Pavilion, which was the recognized authority of the Origin Enlightened Continent. Through the teleportation array, I'll go to the nearest city to verify my identity. Lin Feng was actually unsure whether he was a 1-star or 2-star expert. His current combat strength was probably just a little bit away from the threshold of a top-notch Black Region Master. If he was not a 2-star expert, he would not be able to accept any good missions. Because there were too many 1-star experts, the good and the bad were all mixed together. Generally, they would do some errands and odd jobs. At the very least, he had to be a 2-star expert for the difficulty and requirements of the missions to be better. The higher the number of stars, the more difficult the missions would be. Let's give it a try first. In addition, I have to buy a good cultivation time array. He had less than 10,000 years. He had to maximize the use of this time. A cultivation time array was indispensable. It could help him maximize the use of time. A 10-fold cultivation time array would allow 1/10 of the time to pass. A 100-fold cultivation time array would allow 1/100th of the time to pass. With a good cultivation time array, cultivation would be twice the result with half the effort. Moreover, he still had to go to the city to sell the Chaos Black treasures. The Heavenly Tea Pavilion was the largest place to purchase and sell treasures. Like the Emperor's Star Pavilion, it was only available in regular cities. Mission Valley did not have it. After buying the cultivation time array, I'll be certified as an expert. Then, I'll come back here to accept missions and slowly adapt. Lin Feng thought. Then, he stepped into the teleportation array, paid a small fee of 1 void crystal, and headed to the nearest city. Fog City. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1685. Fog City got its name because of the faint layer of fog. It wasn't big, but it was dozens of times bigger than Mission Valley. The city wasn't gorgeous, and many of them were in ruins due to the chaos of war. The city was different from Mission Valley. Basically, the city belonged to the clan. Every city was supported by a clan. Just like Northern Continent's Urin City, it was ruled by the Urin clan. Behind Fog City was a clan called the Flaming Mist Clan. They weren't famous in Origin Awakened Continent and were considered a very ordinary clan. However, they were much stronger than Northern Continent's Urin City. No matter how extraordinary they were, the Flaming Mist Clan still had a 4-star expert. That was a peak Black Domain Master. Eastern Continent, Southern Continent, and Western Continent's 3-winged emperors are only SOSO. Lin Feng thought. With such an expert, the Flaming Mist Clan was only an ordinary clan among the thousands of clans. It could be seen how strong Origin Awakened Continent was. Because the environment was different. In the Northern Continent, the heaven and earth energy was the weakest. Therefore, it was difficult to surpass the Black Domain Master Realm. Although the other 3 continents were much better than the Northern Continent, reaching the level of the 3-winged emperors was probably the limit. However, Origin Awakened Continent was different. This was a place where the bottom was still unknown. The spatial energy here far exceeded that of the other three continents. Here, becoming a black domain master was as easy as flipping one's hand. Especially the spatial energy fluctuations, it was more than 100 times more sensitive than the outside world. This was the true core of the wandering planet. Grasping and comprehending the true meaning of space was naturally much easier. Becoming a peak black domain master didn't require too much effort or talent. I can even faintly feel the high-level true meaning of space. Lin Feng walked in Fog City and recalled the comprehension he had in the spatial cultivation room. He didn't feel anything when he was in Northern Continent, but here, not long after entering, he could already feel it. It's really much easier to cultivate here. Lin Feng sighed. The comprehension of the true meaning of space was of great help to one's cultivation and combat strength. Perhaps it might not be necessary to become a top-notch master of the Black region, but if one wanted to become a master of the Black region, they would definitely need to comprehend the true meaning of space. My current spatial energy comprehension is definitely not inferior to the winged people with excellent aptitudes. Lin Feng was very confident. His Black Vortex bloodline had already risen to a new level. Fog City was very quiet. Everywhere was shrouded in a faint mist, making it difficult to see anything. There were not many warriors here, and the number of warriors on the streets was even lower than in the Mission Valley. Because the Flame Mist race isn't strong enough, Lin Feng said. The powerhouses of the large clans all had their own cities. As for the warriors of the clans that didn't have cities, they would usually choose to join the stronger clans. Even if they didn't join, they would at least be safer. In comparison, those mid-tier clans were somewhat mediocre. Unless the city had a very good reward system, an eye-catching place, a special cultivation environment, and other factors, how could it compare to those big clans? However, no matter how ordinary a city was, there would more or less be a clan living in it. As the saying goes, a sparrow may be small, but it has all the essentials. Some cities had lower prices, so it was more convenient to do things. Some cities were closer to various cultivation grounds, and some cities were more peaceful and comfortable. Fog City's previous environment was relatively beautiful. The quaint buildings had a faint mist around them, giving the entire city a mysterious and secluded feeling. However, there had been a war before. So many clans had evacuated. After all, no one liked to live in a dangerous place. Purple Star Tower. Lin Feng looked for the location on the map he had bought with one void crystal. Every city had standard buildings like the Purple Star Tower, Heavenly Tea Pavilion, and King's Arena. They weren't difficult to find. Following the map, Lin Feng soon found a building as tall as a lighthouse. Purple Star Tower. It was like the Emperor's star hanging high above the city gate. Purple Star Tower was not only a place to identify a cultivator's star, but also a top and powerful force in Origin Awakened Continent. All the cultivators who identified a cultivator's star were meticulously inspected by Purple Star cultivators. 10 void crystals. Lin Feng paid the inspection fee and followed the cultivator to the second floor of Purple Star Tower. The first and second floors had the most people. In addition to identifying a cultivator's star, this place was also a branch of Purple Star Tower. Many Purple Star cultivators were there to guide newcomers to improve their strength. Joining Purple Star Tower is not bad. Lin Feng maintained a wait-and-see attitude towards everything at the moment. He wouldn't participate or reject it for the time being. Everything was possible. But first, he still hoped to learn more about the entire Origin Awakened continent before making a decision. He wanted to use his own body and his own saber to understand instead of relying on his memories and hearsay. The cultivators on the second floor looked at him with surprise. After all, Lin Feng was quite young. In the northern continent, Lin Feng having such strength at his age was completely inconceivable. In Origin Awakened continent, although there were young cultivators like Lin Feng who came to be tested as a 2-star powerhouse, there were not many of them. There were several people who came before Lin Feng to be tested, and they were all much older than Lin Feng. Although they were 2-star powerhouses, it was a watershed. It meant that they had stepped into the top Black Domain Masters. It could be said that they had truly entered the circle of Origin Awakened Continent's powerhouses and were different from one-star powerhouses. Hello, I am Xiong Yin of the Aichi Demon Clan. A Demon Clan man in front of Lin Feng smiled. His black and white skin had half-spiral demon runes condensed on it. His long eyebrows were the same as the demon runes, and there was a snail-like spiral pattern at the end. Human Lin Feng. Lin Feng responded with a smile. Xiong Yin of the Demon Clan nodded and said, "Little brother, you look very strong. You don't look like a human at all. Instead, you look like one of us demons." "Humans can also be very strong," Lin Feng said. His body's talent, strength, and other aspects were indeed very similar to the demons. The demons were more sensitive in this aspect, and this Aichi Demon Clan Xiong Yan's eyes were clearly not ordinary. "Haha." Xiong Yin of the Demon Clan grinned and said, "Humans are very smart, but very few of them are very strong." As he said this, Xiong Yan's eyes lit up and he warmly invited, "How about we go to the King's Arena after the test is over?" "No, I still have to return to Mission Valley." Lin Feng tactfully declined. Xiong Yin of the Demon Clan said, "Another mission, it's not fun. Men should go to the King's Arena and fight with real swords and spears. That's what makes one's blood boil." As he said this, he waved his thick arm, his muscles like tempered steel. Lin Feng smiled. Demon Clan powerhouses were indeed fond of fighting. He already had 2 of them under him. "It's my turn." Xiong Yin of the Demon Clan rubbed his fists, his eyes sparkling. "When I pass the test and become a 2-star powerhouse, I can go to the King's Arena to challenge other 2-star powerhouses. Good luck." Lin Feng smiled. Chapter 1686. King's Arena. Lin Feng smiled faintly. After obtaining Tai Dong's memories, he naturally knew what the King's Arena was. It was one of the super forces on par with the Emperor Star Tower. Origin Awakened Continent's martial culture was very strong, and the strong were respected. The King's Arena existed to make the strong stronger. This was the stage of the strong. In a fair duel, competing with the strong of the same level could often stimulate the improvement of one's strength. It was worth mentioning that this was a real battle, and it was common for both sides to be killed in the arena. Of course, every battle in the King's Arena would be accompanied by a King Arbiter, whose star level was higher than the fighting side by 1 star. However, battles often changed rapidly, and even if the King Arbiter's strength was higher, he might not be able to stop it in time. Even so, the death rate had already decreased by more than 95%. However, injuries were inevitable. It's good to improve one's battle strength in the King's Arena, but with the King Arbiter's existence, I still lack a bit of life and death experience. Lin Feng himself did not like this method of retreat. However, there was no denying the necessity of the King's Arena's rules. If every battle was to determine the victor, more than half of Origin Awakened Continent strong would have died. There's not much point for me to enter the King's Arena now. Lin Feng was very clear. He had just come from the North Continent, and he had basically dug up all the strength he could at present, so there was not much room for a breakthrough. The King's Arena was more suitable for martial artists who urgently needed to break through bottlenecks, and not for people like him who steadily improved their strength. Bian Yan's previous examination lasted for a long time, and Lin Feng knew that the longer it lasted, the less likely Bian Yan would pass. His personality was rather impatient and impulsive, and he thirsted for battle. For someone like him, if he had the strength of a 2-star powerhouse, he would have passed long ago. He reckoned that every once in a while, he couldn't wait to challenge them and see if he could cross that thin line and become a true 2-star expert. Sure enough, the door in front opened, and Bian Yin came out dejectedly, his expression ugly. Next, the martial artist in charge of registration shouted, "It's okay, keep up the good work." Lin Feng and Yin brushed past each other, comforting him with a sentence, and then entered through the door, entering a sealed space. In front of them was a martial artist wearing purple star clothing, and there were shockingly 2 stars on his star clothing. This was the Ziwei martial artist who was in charge of inspecting 2-star martial artists. Generally speaking, his strength was above 2 stars, but below 3 stars. However, After going through professional training, the Ziwei martial artists in charge of appraisal maintained a professional dividing line of their own strength and evaluation standards, not 1 point more or less. There were 3 other martial artists watching from the sidelines. They were the second witness. In addition, there were many new members of the branch dojo who would come to watch. The first reason was to learn, and the second was to be witnesses. They were meticulous in all aspects. This was the reason why the Purple Star Pavilion had its current status. They were responsible for appraising the strength of cultivators and gaining the trust of others. So young. Yes, she should be younger than me, right? He's able to appraise a 2-star expert at such a young age. That's incredible. The surrounding rookies were separated by a layer of metallic glass as they discussed in hushed whispers. Of course, their voices could not reach the trial space. Seeing how young Lin Feng was, and that more than half of the rookies were older than Lin Feng, they were very surprised. "You may begin," the 2-star expert in charge of appraisal suddenly said. His expression was as calm as an ancient well, like a deep lake. The heavy treasured sword in his hand flashed, and in a split second, it transformed into a vigorous earth energy that was as thick as 1,000 caddies. "Excuse me." Lin Feng was not polite and quickly lowered his body. Crimson light bloomed in his hand, and the 6 paths of light instantly condensed and merged into the battle saber, causing the crimson battle edge to shine brightly. The moment the saber light appeared, the crimson battle edge was already like a sharp blade cutting towards the 2-star Ziwei martial artist not far away. Silver Plateau Saber Technique. Lin Feng was originally good at offense. Since his opponent was so kind, he naturally would not be polite. His current strength was indeed a little bit away from the threshold of a top-notch Black Region Master, but this was not an insurmountable gap. He could make up for it with his improvisation and experience. Hua! The 2-star Ziwei martial artist's eyes lit up, and the patterns of the earth appeared in front of him. He used his nomological secret technique to the point of perfection, preventing him from attacking and forcefully consuming Lin Feng's strength. As an appraising Ziwei martial artist, he could not immediately attack as soon as he made his move. Their duty was to fully appraise the martial artist in front of them. Wow, the 6 paths of light fused. What is this? It's just talent. This fusion standard is too weak. You can't say that. The fusion of the 6 paths of light is different from normal fusion. The fusion of my 3 Grand Daos of wind is much harder than the fusion of 2 Grand Daos, not to mention 6 Grand Daos. That's right. It's easy for you to say that. Although these newcomers of Ziwei Star Tower were not strong, they often watched battles and had good foresight. Newcomers who had seen more powerhouses had a broader vision and a clearer future direction. Foresight and perspective were very important to a newcomer. Looking at the sky from the bottom of a well, the direction of their efforts was only the sky above the well. The bigger the perspective, the higher their future achievements. Not only these newcomers, but the other 3 neutral martial artists were also slightly surprised. They revealed solemn expressions and nodded one after another. They could naturally see a martial artist's combat strength and potential. Fusion of 6 Grand Daos of light. Disregarding fusion comprehension, just the talent of light alone was not ordinary. Lin Feng naturally would not care about how others judged him. He threw himself into the battle wholeheartedly. There was only one thought now, and that was to defeat the opponent in front of him, regardless of the opponent's strength. The 2-star Ziwei martial artist's defense was airtight, not leaving the slightest gap for Lin Feng. Martial artists who walked the Tao of Earth were best at this. Exhaust first. Exhaust strength, then wait for an opportunity to counterattack. Previously, Yin had been defeated like this, and it was a rather miserable defeat. But what the 2-star Ziwei martial artist did not expect was that the opponent this time was not simple. In terms of combat strength, he might not necessarily be on par with Yin, but his performance on the spot and utilization of combat strength was beyond Yan's reach. Lin Feng steadily suppressed him. Fully aware of the 2-star Ziwei martial artist's strength, he used attacking methods rhythmically, suppressing the opponent in a very uncomfortable space as a whole, difficult to advance or retreat. Years of battle, plus the great power of his strength realm. Lin Feng's combat strength was quite impressive. Although the two-star Zhui martial artist had been waiting for an opportunity to counterattack, Lin Feng was like a precision machine operating, not giving the two-star Zhui martial artist the slightest chance. He could turn defense into offense, but then his strength would exceed the current testing point. To maintain under the evaluation of combat strength, it was very difficult to cause any damage to Lin Feng. This guy, the two-star Zhui martial artist, was very helpless. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1687. Lin Feng's attack was very ordinary. There were no particularly strong moves, but it was so simple and easy to pass the two-star expert appraisal test, making the surrounding newcomers dumbfounded. He passed just like that. It can't be so simple. Why can't I feel that he's powerful at all? The rookies were perplexed as they looked at each other with puzzled looks. It was because Lin Feng's passing was too strange. They couldn't feel his strength, but he passed very easily. The feeling was somewhat inconceivable. Behind the newcomers, a Zhui martial artist with a 3-star emblem on his chest said, "4 tails to 1,000 caddies." Teacher Han." The newcomers turned around and saw the 3-star Zhui martial artist, all calling out respectfully. The eyes of the 3-star Zhui martial artist, who was addressed as teacher, flickered as he glanced at Lin Feng's figure through the metal glass. With his hands behind his back, he said, "Turn 1 part of your strength into 10 parts and strike out, attacking the enemy's weakness and maximizing your combat power. Although this child is like this, even if he goes all out, he may not really pass. However, this is tactics and experience." The 3-star Zhui martial artist said, "However, I don't agree with this kind of trick, but sometimes the result is often the most important. You don't have to defeat the enemy head-on when fighting. You can also try other methods. In a battle between 2 major clans, it may not necessarily be the stronger clan that wins. Does everyone understand?" The newcomers nodded as if they understood, bowing respectfully and saying, "Yes, teacher." Lin Feng didn't know that he was being used as a teaching material. To him, passing the test was the most important. Receiving the 2-star expert emblem wasn't just a symbol of identity and strength, but also had many other uses. For example, some large cities could only be entered by 2-star experts and above. For example, in a mission valley, the missions that 2-star experts could take on were worlds apart from 1-star experts. 2-star experts were a dividing line, the dividing line between ordinary people and experts in Origin Awakened Continent. "Hello, my name is Tang Yu. I'm the person in charge here. You can call me Mr. Tang," a gentle man said to Lin Feng with a smile. He looked very kind. "Hello, Mr. Tang." Lin Feng caught a glimpse of the 4-star badge on Tang Wulin's chest. This was a 4-star Zhui martial artist. His strength had reached the pinnacle of the Black Domain Master Realm. If he was placed in the Tung Chi continent, he would be at the top of the pyramid. Even in Fog City, he would be a peak existence because the strongest person in the Flame Mist race was only a 4-star expert. "I wonder if little brother has joined any other forces?" Tang Yu asked in a friendly manner. "No," Lin Feng answered honestly. In his heart, he knew that the other party was merely asking in passing. The Purple Star Pavilion had a record of every single powerhouse with a number of stars. It was very clear whether they had joined a faction or not. "Oh," Tang Yu was slightly surprised and asked, "Forgive this Tang's poor eyesight, but may I know which human race little brother is from?" Outside, Lin Feng didn't hide it. Tang Yu nodded, looking as if he suddenly understood, but in reality, he had more or less guessed it. Although there were many races in Origin Awakened Continent, experienced people like him were very clear about the characteristics of each race. "I won't beat around the bush. I wonder if little brother is interested in joining the Purple Star Pavilion?" Tang Yu asked with a smile. "Our Purple Star Pavilion spares no effort in nurturing newcomers. As long as you have enough potential, we can help you fulfill it. Little brother, you might not know this since this is your first time in Origin Awakened Continent, but my Purple Star Pavilion is one of the top forces in Origin Awakened Continent. It is not inferior to the 5 great races and the other 7 great forces. However, among the 8 great forces, we are the best at nurturing newcomers. The other forces are far less meticulous than us. Moreover, we have a large number of purple star cultivators. We guarantee that newcomers will have a teacher to guide them at every level. Little brother, you can take a tour of our purple star pavilion, and you will know that this Tang's words are true. Tang Yu spoke endlessly. Lin Feng listened attentively, not interrupting. For him, any possibility was possible. Joining the Purple Star Pavilion was not a bad choice. At least it would allow him to safely pass through the early stages and establish a firm foothold in Origin Awakened Continent. In Taidong's memories, the Purple Star Pavilion was indeed as Tang Yu described. Compared to the Arena of Kings, which focused on actual combat to nurture newcomers, the Purple Star Pavilion's method of nurturing newcomers was the friendliest. One was like a wildflower being battered by the wind and rain outside, while the other was like a flower being nurtured in a greenhouse. Both had their advantages and disadvantages. However, if he really had to choose, he would still choose the Arena of Kings. Sometimes being a little cruel to oneself was not necessarily a bad thing. I will consider it carefully, Mr. Tang. Lin Feng smiled at Tang Yu. All right then. Tang Yu revealed a helpless smile. He also knew that Lin Feng was tactfully declining. As a 4-star purple star cultivator and the person in charge of the branch's warrior department, he would not pester a newcomer to force them to join. It would be too embarrassing. Moreover, although Lin Feng's talent was amazing, it was only not bad. After being in charge of the branch's warrior department for so many years, he had seen even more talented newcomers. Lin Feng could only be considered above average. It would be good if he could join, but if he did not want to, he would not force him. Thank you for your invitation, Mr. Tang. I will remember your kindness. We will meet again. Lin Feng respectfully bid farewell. A powerhouse like Mr. Tang was worthy of respect. All right, we will meet again. Tang Yu also smiled. Lin Feng left the Purple Star Pavilion. Although he declined Tang Yu's invitation, it did not mean that Lin Feng did not want to join the Purple Star Pavilion. It was just that he had not made a decision yet. The 5 major clans were out of his consideration, but Lin Feng still wanted to join one of the 8 major forces. As the saying went, it was better to lean against a big tree. Having just entered Origin Awakened Continent and being unfamiliar with the place, it was not a bad thing to have a powerful force to protect him. However, it was not bad to wait and see first and have more choices. Then, let's go to the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. Lin Feng already had a plan in mind. The Heavenly Tea Pavilion and the Purple Star Pavilion were the same. They were both one of the top 8 major forces. Each of the 8 major forces had its own strengths and characteristics. The Heavenly Tea Pavilion specialized in purchasing and selling treasures. There were all kinds of Chaos Cave mystic treasures, strange items, and even the legendary supreme treasures of the Tung Chi continent. In Taidong's memory, the Heavenly Tea Pavilion was said to be the wealthiest of the 8 major forces. However, the strength of their cultivators was still a mystery. Some were said to be powerful, while others were said to be strong in appearance, but weak in reality. They have the most treasures and astonishing wealth in Origin Awakened Continent. If they focus on nurturing powerhouses, how can the Heavenly Tea Pavilion be weak? Lin Feng knew very well. They might not necessarily be the strongest of the 8 major forces, but they definitely would not be the weakest. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1688. Lin Feng headed to Heavenly Tea Pavilion. As a newcomer, it was better to exchange for some money. After all, he couldn't exchange Chaos Profound treasures every time. The 900 void crystals he had were far from enough. He couldn't even afford a top-grade Chaos Profound treasure. In Origin Awakened Continent, 900 void crystals wasn't a large sum. Heavenly Tea Pavilion, which was located in the center of the city, occupied a huge area. It was several times larger than the Emperor Star Building and had a better location. It's indeed very rich. Lin Feng looked into the distance. It was a dazzling sight with pearls and gemstones everywhere. There were many treasures in Origin Awakened Continent. Heavenly Tea Pavilion could naturally make a lot of money by selling and buying them. Coupled with auctions, recycling, maintenance, and so on, Heavenly Tea Pavilion's business was doing very well. "Sir, this way, please." As soon as Lin Feng entered, he was greeted with incomparable hospitality. A beautiful maidservant accompanied him. Entering Heavenly Tea Pavilion was like entering a grand garden and exhibition hall. Crystal cabinets of different shapes were placed, displaying all kinds of treasures. There were chaos treasures, spatial treasures, and odd-shaped weapons. "Sir, what treasures do you want?" asked the beautiful maidservant gently. "I'll just take a look first." Lin Feng wasn't in a hurry to sell the treasures. He first observed Heavenly Tea Pavilion to see the prices of the treasures here. Only then would he have some confidence in selling the chaos treasures. This was different from selling them to the slave owners in Mission Valley. How much could he lose if he sold half an item? A few hundred or 1,000 void crystals were considered a lot. However, this time, he was planning to sell dozens or even hundreds of items. He naturally had to be prepared. "All right." The beautiful maidservant knew the rules very well. She responded softly and didn't say anything else. She silently followed, half a step behind him. Lin Feng had a leisurely expression. He looked at the treasures one by one. Those who were interested would take a closer look. There didn't seem to be many people in Heavenly Tea Pavilion. Firstly, Heavenly Tea Pavilion was really huge. He couldn't see the end of it. It was much bigger than the Emperor Star Building. Secondly, there were very few races in Mist City. After the previous war, the population had plummeted. Top-grade chaos treasures start at about 1,200 void crystals. Peak chaos treasures cost at least 15,000 void crystals. Lin Feng read along the way and had a rough estimate of the price. Generally speaking, the price would be much more expensive, and it was only at the counter price. If one really wanted to buy it, especially if they bought it in bulk, they would definitely be able to get a little discount, and it would be much cheaper. However, the spatial treasures here aren't considered expensive. Lin Feng said, "In the Tongqi continent, spatial mystic treasures were much more expensive than chaotic whole mystic treasures of the same level, but they were basically equal here." After thinking for a while, Lin Feng understood. After all, the winged men were the ones who could truly unleash the power of spatial treasures. The winged men clan had a large population on the Tongqi continent, but they were only one of the 5 major clans here. Moreover, the spatial energy in the Origin Awakening continent was much more abundant than outside. There were countless spatial crystals, so there were many spatial treasures. The supply and demand ratio was completely different from the Tongqi continent. "I want this, and this." Not far away, a golden-haired young man pointed with his finger as if he was pointing at a mountain as he purchased numerous treasures, and the space between his brows was filled with the aura of wealth. Sitting next to 2 beautiful women, he was proud and looked like a rich young master. In front of him, the chief steward of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion led a group of maids to serve this rich young master with smiles on their faces. There were at least 10 treasures bought for him. "Young Master, what do you want this?" The chief steward of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion eagerly introduced. "This jewelry is most suitable for women to wear. Not only is the design exquisite, but it also has a life-saving effect." "Oh." The golden-haired young man glanced at it indifferently and smiled proudly. "Isn't it just 500 spatial crystals? It's a piece of cake." He glanced at Lin Feng, who was not far away, and saw the 2-star badge on his chest. A trace of jealousy appeared in his eyes, and he snorted coldly. "I'm not like those poor people who can't afford to buy anything and still look around here. It's embarrassing." Lin Feng looked at the golden-haired young man in the distance and could not help but laugh. Was he talking about him? When Lin Feng met the arrogant gaze of the young man, he smiled slightly and did not take it to heart. He continued to look at other crystal cabinets. Since he had seen such a thing, he would not lower himself to the same level as the young man. "Boring. This one and this one, I'll take them both." When the golden-haired young man saw Lin Feng avoid him, his voice became louder, and there was a hint of pride in it. "It's so cheap. Of course, the treasures of our Heavenly Tea Pavilion are the most affordable." The chief steward of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion was grinning from ear to ear. Lin Feng smiled slightly. This young man was really being cheated without knowing it. Sir, young Master Gua is like this. Don't be angry. The beautiful maid's voice came from behind. Lin Feng turned his head and said softly, Is his family rich? The beautiful maid whispered, His grandfather is the famous first elder of the Flame Mist tribe. His position is second only to the patriarch. So that was it. Lin Feng nodded. He did not have the time to be angry with this kind of person. It was too boring. However, the maid behind him was quite considerate. Lin Feng smiled and said, What is your name? My name is Little Ing, sir. The beautiful maid, Little Ing, smiled faintly. She was very cute. Lin Feng said casually, Me Luo human tribe? The beautiful maid's eyes lit up, and she said in surprise, Sir, how did you know? Your ears and hair. Lin Feng smiled. The characteristics of the Mi Luo human tribe were very obvious. They were a bit like the ears of the elf tribe. Their ears were small and beautiful like precious jade. Their hair was elegant and would be styled into 2 small spiral curls. It was very cute. Sir, you know a lot. The beautiful maid pursed her lips. Lin Feng smiled. In fact, the Mi Luo human tribe was the same as the beast tribe. They were few in number and lacked talent. It was almost impossible for them to gain a foothold in the Origin Awakened continent. They belonged to the lower class and would be sold as slaves. The Origin Awakened continent was very realistic. The weak were prey to the strong. Without strength, it was destined that it would be difficult for them to survive. They would be devoured by others, and their status would be reduced to that of slaves before they slowly perished. Such examples were as numerous as the stars in the sky, and they were innumerable. Countless races would rise and fall in every epoch. Sighing in his heart, Lin Feng suddenly thought of the Milky Way. When a Milky Way's super black hole collapsed and was destroyed, how many races would be destroyed? It would be much more serious than the races in the Origin Awakened continent, because the destruction of the Milky Way's super black hole was irreversible. Thinking of this, he felt a great responsibility. But now, he still did not have any ideas. He could only take it one step at a time. Lin Feng continued to look at the treasures while chatting with Little Ing. He was not bored. Suddenly, a noise came from afar. Lin Feng could not help but be surprised. This voice seemed a little familiar. It's him? Lin Feng looked in the distance and saw the familiar figure. He could not help but smile. Chapter 1689. His black and white skin was covered with half-spiral devil tattoos. In the distance, he was arguing with one of the stewards of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. He was none other than Yin, the Aichi Devil Clan's expert he had just met in the Purple Star Tower. Oh, it's him. The beautiful maid, Little Ing, was slightly surprised. After becoming familiar with Lin Feng, she no longer silently followed behind him like before and would even talk to him. You know him? Lin Feng could not help but ask curiously. Little Ing nodded lightly. I've received him several times. He's Yin from the AI Chi Demon race. Although he looks fierce, he doesn't have any ill intentions. He just wants a top-grade chaos hole profound treasure, but he doesn't have enough space crystals. So he's here to haggle? Lin Feng had more or less guessed the reason. Little Ing nodded. I've been haggling for a long time, but I'm still 150 space crystals short. In fact, if it weren't for the difference, I would have sold it to him. After all, he comes here often and makes a lot of noise. It's very troublesome. As she spoke, Little Ing could not help but smile, revealing 2 shallow dimples. Lin Feng also smiled. Thinking about Yan's character and temper, it was indeed true. But he said before that he wanted to compete in the Arena of Kings to earn space crystals. I don't know if he made enough money, Little Ing said. I don't think so, Lin Feng said. In the Arena of Kings, 2-star experts did have an appearance fee, and if they won, they would receive a victory bonus, but 1-star experts did not. Now that he thought about it, Yin wanted to go to the Arena of Kings not only because he wanted to fight, but also because he desperately wanted to earn some space crystals. Give it to him. Lin Feng took out 150 space crystals and handed it to Little Ing. The latter covered her mouth in surprise. 150 space crystals was not a small number, and it was enough to buy a powerful chaos hole profound treasure. It's actually a pity for him, Lin Feng said. If you have enough void crystals to buy this treasure, your strength will definitely increase by another level. After passing the assessment, you will become a 2-star martial artist. After that, you will be able to enter the arena of kings to compete and become self-sufficient. But now, if he was restricted in one area, he would be restricted everywhere. He did not have enough space crystals to buy treasures. His strength was not enough for him to break through the assessment, and his stars were not enough to go to the king's arena. Okay, I'll thank you on his behalf, sir. Little Ying's eyes were filled with envy as she bowed to Lin Feng and then trotted over with 150 void crystals. The noise on the other side soon stopped, as if the transaction had been completed. Soon, Little Ying ran back. However, there was also a big, black, foolish man following behind him. He rushed over in a hurry. It was Yin. Upon seeing Lin Feng, Yin Tongling's large eyes widened and she was stunned. What's wrong? You don't recognize me? Lin Feng smiled. No. Yin was a little tongue-tied and said blankly, How could it be you, little brother? Who else could it be? Lin Feng smiled. Yin was stunned for a moment. That's right. Who else could it be but him? He had asked all his friends to lend him one, but none of them were willing to lend it to him. No matter how close they were on normal days, when it came to void crystals, their faces would instantly change. Because of these 150 void crystals, he almost died from anger. Who would have thought? Thank you. Yin murmured. For a moment, he was so speechless that he did not know what to say. His heart was like a monstrous wave, and he could not calm down for a long time. A human he had only met once was willing to help him regardless of the conditions. You're welcome. Lin Feng smiled slightly. Since it was fate, there was no harm in helping. Although Yin was a demon, his heart was not bad, and he had the heart to become stronger. Moreover, 150 void crystals was just a drop in the bucket for his family. Just the 2 battles in Yurin City alone had given him a huge harvest of EXIN. He believed in the word fate. Good will be rewarded with good, and evil will be repaid with evil. I Ching was like this that day, and it was because he helped him regardless of the past that he learned the secret of the wandering planet. It was destined. However, whether it was helping Qi Lu or Yin, it was just along the way. It was within his ability. As Yin kept thanking him, Lin Feng left immediately. From the beginning to the end, he had never thought of getting anything from Yin. Looking at Little Ling, who had a look of reverence, Lin Feng smiled and said, Actually, I don't even have 1,000 void crystals on me. Would you believe it? Little Ling was stunned and nodded in confusion. Then, sir, why did you take out 150 void crystals to help him? Money will always come back. Lin Feng said to Little Ling, It's because I don't have enough void crystals that I came to Heavenly Tea Pavilion. Little Ing understood this time and said in realization, So Mr. is here to sell treasures? Yes. Lin Feng nodded. Little Ing said, Sir, how many void crystals are you going to sell? I can decide if it's within 1,000, but if it's within 10,000, I'll have to ask the manager. 1 million. Lin Feng said with a smile. Little Ing was stunned. Chief Steward. Little Ing ran over in a panic. At this time, the chief steward of Heavenly Tea Pavilion was serving young Master Guo with a group of maids. Seeing Little Ing run over, Chief Steward Luo frowned and said in a low voice, Let's talk later. No, that's not it. Chief Steward, something big happened. Little Ying's chest heaved up and down as she exclaimed, A guest wants to sell treasures. Sell treasures? Chief Steward Luo was stunned. How much? 1 million void crystals. Little Ing whispered. What? Chief Steward Luo was a little hard of hearing and did not hear clearly. The other maids around him were also stunned and looked at Little Ing blankly, wondering if they had heard wrong or if Little Ing had misspoken. It's 1 million void crystals, Chief Steward. Little Ing gritted her teeth and said word by word. Pung! There was a sudden clap of thunder, and all the maids were completely stunned. They did not hear wrong. 1 million void crystals. The chief steward was completely stunned. He had been in the position of chief steward for so long, but had never seen anyone sell treasures worth 1,000,000 void crystals. What's all this noise? In the distance, Guo hugged two beautiful women and showed a displeased look. Chief Steward Luo did not even look at Guo and instead stared straight at Little Ing, placing his hands on Little Ying's shoulders. Are you serious? Someone really wants to sell treasures worth 1,000,000 void crystals. Treasures worth 1,000,000 void crystals? Guo, who was originally in high spirits, also widened his eyes in shock and could not close his mouth. Yes, Chief Steward, Little Ing said quickly. Where is he? Where is he? Chief Steward Luo was so anxious that he could not speak clearly. There, Little Ing pointed. Not only Chief Steward Luo, but also Guo and the maids all looked over and saw an ordinary-looking black-robed young man standing there quietly. Wasn't this the human youth they had just seen who was strolling around without buying treasures? So, Steward Luo scurried over with practically flying speed, directly leaving young Master Guo to the side. However, at this moment, Guo was completely stunned as he stared at the two-star master he had just ridiculed, feeling like he was a clown. The other party had just taken out 1,000,000 void crystals. What do you buy count for? For a novel to read, please visit Chapter 1690. Hello, mister. I am the chief steward here, Luo Min. Please forgive me if there is anything wrong with my hospitality. Chief Steward Luo was experienced after all. He immediately tried to make up for it. Regardless of whether it was useful or not, it was better to do it than not. It's all right. Lin Feng was not a petty person and did not want to compare himself to others. What's more, it was quite comfortable with Little Ing accompanying him just now. Thank you, mister. Chief Steward Luo sighed in his heart and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He quickly put on a smile and said, Mister, are you serious about selling treasures for 1,000,000 void crystals? Yes. Lin Feng's answer made Chief Steward Luo feel relieved. But Lin Feng dragged out the word. Chief Steward Luo's eyes widened and his heart was in his throat again. If your purchase price is too low, I'll have to reconsider, Lin Feng said with a smile. No. Our purchase price will definitely be the highest. You can rest assured, mister. No force can offer a higher price than our Heavenly Tea Pavilion. We will definitely not let you suffer a loss. Chief Steward Luo vowed solemnly and hastily said, Let's go. Lin Feng said suddenly. Go. Chief Steward Luo was so scared that his face turned green. He said, Mister, don't go. Everything can be discussed. We will give you the highest purchase price, 2% higher than usual. No, 5% higher. So good? Lin Feng smiled. Chief Steward Luo wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, Yes, as long as Mister doesn't leave, everything can be discussed. Lin Feng smiled and said, If I don't leave, are we going to talk here? Chief Steward Luo was stunned and suddenly reacted. He slapped his head hard and said, Oh, I'm so stupid. Sui Er showed a smile that was uglier than crying. He wanted to slap himself, but his mouth was too fast and he misunderstood. However, if he could keep this customer, it was worth paying a little price. 1,000,000 void crystals. Chief Steward Luo was grinning from ear to ear. He usually did not have much business in Fog City, which was neither good nor bad. Now that he had made such a big order, his performance this year was going to soar to the sky. If he performed well in the future, he would have the opportunity to leave Miss City and become the chief steward of a bigger city. Promotion. This was what Chief Steward Luo valued the most. In essence, the Heavenly Tea Pavilion's demand for treasures was greater than its selling price. The more treasures it bought, the more it would earn. As for selling, it was not in a hurry. When there was enough supply, customers would naturally come to buy, even if the price was higher than normal. This was also why the treasures in the Heavenly Tea Pavilion were sold at a higher price. Because it wasn't expensive, the treasure had already been sold out. Sir, please take care. Sir, please take care. Manager Luo nodded and bowed. He was very respectful towards Lin Feng. Although he gave Lin Feng more than 5% of the purchase price, it didn't matter. He could sell it for 5% more. When it came to business, people who were willing to take the bait. At most, he would sell it for a while. Anyway, the Heavenly Tea Pavilion was not short of money. With 1,000,000 void crystals in his arms, Lin Feng left the Heavenly Tea Pavilion under Chief Steward Luo's eager farewell. At present, he was really not short of money. Although 1,000,000 void crystals was not considered a fortune in the Origin Awakened continent, it was still considered quite a fortune. It was enough for him to live without worries. Treasures. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. It was useful to have a good relationship with Chief Steward Luo. After all, the Heavenly Tea Pavilion controlled more than 80% of the treasure transactions in the entire Origin Awakened continent. Although it was not as good as the top treasures in the Azure Dragon Auction House, the number of treasures it had was not less than the Azure Dragon Auction House. As long as I have enough void crystals, I can buy treasures. However, the worst treasures were at least 1,000,000 void crystals. Moreover, this was only the starting price of the auction. It was not easy to buy a treasure because there were quite a lot of competitors. Treasures were priceless. However, I don't have much use for treasures now. Lin Feng knew very well that there were two treasures that he used more. One was the beast taming bead chain, and the other was the heaven capturing net. If it was a nomological or space-type treasure, with his current strength, he would not be able to unleash its true function. It was better to improve his strength first. The Heavenly Tea Pavilion is generous. They gave me a time cultivation array for free. Lin Feng was quite satisfied. If he had bought it, he might not have been able to buy such a good time cultivation array. In Taidong's memory, a 100-fold time cultivation array was considered good, and a 1,000-fold time cultivation array was even better. However, the Heavenly Tea Pavilion gave him a 10,000-fold time cultivation array. 10,000. Although it could not be compared to the cultivation space in the North River, the two were of different types. One was an independent spatial mystic realm, while the other was a time cultivation array, an array formation condensed by time mystic skills. Having a time cultivation array could help him save a lot of cultivation time. Everything was ready except for the east wind. Now I can barely stand firm in the Origin Awakened continent. Lin Feng smiled. Next, he could go to the Mission Valley and temporarily stay there. While cultivating with the time cultivation array in the space cultivation room, he could take on missions and familiarize himself with the real Origin Awakened continent. With the 10,000-year goal, he planned to adapt to cultivation at this pace for the first 500 or even 1,000 years. The spatial energy here is so abundant. After entering the Origin Awakened continent, my strength will probably increase by leaps and bounds for a period of time. Lin Feng was very clear. With his true strength, it would not be much of a problem to step into the threshold of a top-level Black Region Master. This was predictable. Haste makes waste. Although the mission of the Origin Awakened continent was difficult, it needed to be steady. The so-called miracle was built on the condition that all the conditions were met. Only then could it happen. Not long after he walked out, Lin Feng let out a soft cry of surprise. Looking into the distance, he saw AI Chi Mo Yin, whom he had just helped, rushing towards him with a flustered expression. Lin Feng could not help but stop. "Leave quickly, little brother. You've been exposed." Yin gritted his teeth and shouted. "Exposed?" Lin Feng exclaimed softly. Yin Lian said, "It's the father and son surname Gua from the Flame Mist clan. When they heard that you wanted to sell them for 1,000,000 space crystals, they gathered people to catch you. Fog City is their territory. You can't beat them. Leave quickly." "Leave? Where are you going?" "Ha ha ha." In the distance, an arrogant voice sounded. A group of 2-star and 3-star experts slowly gathered around. The leader was an old man with a doddering appearance, but his eyes were shining brightly. His entire body emitted a powerful aura, and the corners of his mouth curled into a disdainful smile, as if he was holding the pearl of wisdom in his hands. In front of his chest, there was a 4-star emblem. A 4-star expert. This was one of the strongest experts in the Flame Mist clan. To read the latest novel, please visit Chapter 1691. Beside the 4-star old man, there was a familiar figure. It was young Master Guoxiao, who had spoken sarcastically to him before. Little Ing had mentioned that his grandfather was the famous Great Elder of the Flame Mist race. His position was second only to the patriarch. It seemed that he was the four-star elder. After all, there were only a few four-star experts in the flame mist race. What do you want? The hot-tempered and impulsive Yin was the first to roar. Nothing. We just want to invite this young master to our race as a guest. The four-star elder smiled playfully. Our flame mist race has always been hospitable. I see that young master is a dragon among men. Your future achievements will definitely be extraordinary. I wonder if young master will do me the honor? I'll give you a ***. Yin was a demon and had a violent personality. He opened his mouth and scolded loudly. Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. It was a hypocrite meeting a hoodlum. He was completely unreasonable. The four-star elder's veins were bulging as he forcefully restrained his temper. However, the four-star elder still forced a hypocritical smile. The corners of his mouth twitched. What do you think, young master? Me? Lin Feng smiled. Swayer pointed at Yin. Lin Feng said, Elder, do you want me to repeat what this demon brother said just now? You. The four-star elder was really angry this time. His narrowed eyes shot out two clear rays of cold light. Guo Xiao beside him roared. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Kid, do you know where this is? It's not your turn to behave atrociously. I'm telling you, you have to leave today even if you don't want to. Come, take these two away. You dare. Yin Mo moved. He clenched his fists and prepared to attack. He didn't care that his strength was completely vulnerable in front of the 2-star and 3-star experts. When Lin Feng saw this, he was also touched. There were good and bad people among humans. There were also demons and despicable people among demons. Why wouldn't I dare? The 4-star old man was so angry that he laughed. He raised his right hand and pointed at Yin Yin. Your Aichi demon clan still needs to rely on our flaming mist clan to survive. Today, if I kill you here, your Aichi demon clan won't even dare to fart. What about the Heavenly Tea Pavilion? Lin Feng suddenly asked. His voice wasn't loud, but it made the originally arrogant flame mist tribe members instantly quiet down. The air was suffocating. Everyone from the flame mist race looked at each other in dismay. No one dared to act rashly, including the 4-star elder leading the group. Heavenly Tea Pavilion. That was not an ordinary place that sold treasures, but one of the top 8 powers in Origin Awakened continent. Even in a small city like Fog City, their chief steward was a 4-star expert. If he angered the Heavenly Tea Pavilion and flattened Fog City, no one would dare to say a word. You join the Heavenly Tea Pavilion? The 4-star elder's voice trembled slightly. Even if he had the courage of a bear and the courage of a leopard, he would not dare to provoke the people of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. Don't listen to him, Grandpa. He's just bluffing. Guo Xiao said hysterically, but even he wasn't sure. How could the 4-star elder not know that such half-truths were the most dangerous? Even if he knew that the other party was bluffing, what if it was true? They couldn't bear the consequences. Fang Yin had already raised his head and snorted. No matter how stupid he was, he knew that the flame mist race would definitely not dare to provoke the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. If you're from the Heavenly Tea Pavilion, show us your Heavenly Tea Pavilion badge. Guo Xiao said hastily. Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. Why should I show it to you? Why should I prove that I'm from the Heavenly Tea Pavilion? If you don't believe me, then so be it. He spread his hands and pointed at himself. I'm right here. You can come and catch me. I won't resist. In fact, with his current strength, there was no point in resisting. I knew you were bluffing. Guo Xiao gritted his teeth, revealing his anger. He said hastily, Catch him, Grandpa. He must be lying. He can't have joined the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. The 4-star elder was still hesitant. Cold sweat kept breaking out on his forehead. He really didn't dare. Once he made the wrong decision, he would be consigned to eternal damnation. Not only him, but the entire flame mist race. As the great elder, he would become a sinner. How could he bear that responsibility? Come and catch me. Weren't you all very arrogant just now? Come and catch me if you can. Fang Yin was very pleased with himself. He didn't take the flame mist race seriously at all. Let's go, Lin Feng said to Fang Yin. Don't let him go. Catch him. Guo shouted angrily at his fellow tribesmen. However, none of them were as brainless as him. Everyone's eyes were focused on the Great Elder, waiting for orders. Lin Feng walked toward the Great Elder. Looking at his conflicted and hesitant expression, Lin Feng smiled. If you like this after being scared a little, how can you do big things? Even if I don't say that I'm from the Heavenly Tea Pavilion and say that I'm from the King's Arena or the Emperor's Star Tower, would you dare to catch me? You. The Great Elder was so angry that his face turned red and he couldn't speak. Actually, I guess that you would come. Lin Feng walked in front of the Great Elder without the slightest fear in his eyes. He raised his right hand and a ray of light appeared, which made the Great Elder's eyes widen in shock. If a race wants to grow, it doesn't rely on this, Lin Feng said leisurely as he passed by the Great Elder. In an instant, he passed through the encirclement of the Flame Mist race and left with Feng Yan. Although the Flame Mist race wanted to stop them, the Great Elder didn't respond. Only Guo was shouting hysterically, but no one would listen to him. They had managed to block the way out. However, they didn't dare to let him stay. Grandpa, he's lying. He's definitely not from the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. How can you let him go? He's worth 1,000,000 void crystals. Guo shouted angrily at the Great Elder with red eyes. Pa! The Great Elder's eyes widened. He raised his hand and slapped Guo, sending him flying with a dumbfounded expression. You be asterisk starred. Do you know who he is? The Great Elder was so angry that he laughed. He's indeed not from the Heavenly Tea Pavilion, but he's a distinguished guest. He has the Heavenly Tea Pavilion's token. If you dare to touch him, you'll be making an enemy of the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. Let him stay. There's no need for tomorrow. The Heavenly Tea Pavilion will come knocking on our doors soon and raise our Flame Mist race to the ground. Stupid. You're so stupid. The Great Elder had nowhere to vent his anger. He flew into a rage, and his whole body trembled with anger. Not only did he fail to let him stay, but he also offended such a person. However, he couldn't touch him. It was more than drawing water with a bamboo basket. It was like trying to steal a chicken only to end up losing the rice used to lure it. Now he was being targeted by the tiger. Let's go. The Great Elder gritted his teeth in anger. He ignored Guo, whose face was red from the slap, and left in a rage. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1692. I'm sorry, Brother Lin Feng, I didn't help much. Yin smiled embarrassedly. Not at all. Lin Feng looked at Yin with a smile. Thank you for risking your life to come and tell me, Brother Yin. For him, Yin would rather offend the Flame Mist clan and was not afraid of death. This kind of kindness was very rare, especially now that the Aichi Demon clan still had to rely on the Flame Mist clan to survive. Yin smiled and said, Little brother, you have done me a favor. If I knew but didn't tell you, wouldn't I be ungrateful? Lin Feng smiled. In this world, how many ungrateful people were there? By the way, did you buy the treasure? Lin Feng changed the topic and asked casually. I bought it. Yan's eyes were shining. His breathing was heavy, and he was very excited. With this treasure, my strength will definitely rise to the next level, and I will soon become a 2-star powerhouse. Little brother, don't worry. When I become a 2-star powerhouse, I will immediately go to the King's Arena to fight and return the 150 void crystals to you. Lin Feng shook his head. No need. You have already returned it. Ah. Yin was startled. Lin Feng smiled. We humans have a saying, friendship is worth 1,000 gold. What you did just now is more than 150 void crystals. But I didn't help at all, Yin said. This is not the point. Lin Feng shook his head. By the way, if you help me like this, what will happen when we return a clan? The Great Elder of the Flame Mist clan will probably make a big fuss about it. Who cares? Yin thought for a while and said indifferently. Lin Feng was stunned for a moment before he smiled. This approach was really in line with Yan's personality, but he could be indifferent, but he couldn't. If the Aichi Demon clan was harmed because of this, he would feel guilty. Although the Flame Mist clan was not ranked among the thousands of clans in Origin Awakened continent, they had a city and a wide network. It was not so difficult to deal with the Aichi Demon clan who looked up to them. especially the 4-star old man just now. He was a vengeful person. Can you take me to your clan? I have something to ask your patriarch, Lin Feng asked. Yin Qing exclaimed. Her eyes widened as she looked at Lin Feng. I can. But, Brother Lin Feng, aren't you afraid of the demon race? With you here, what am I afraid of? Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. Yin nodded and chuckled. Actually, we AI Chi Demon Clan are all kind-hearted and honest. We are not crazy and bloodthirsty like the other demon clans, so... Yin paused for a moment, as if sighing with emotion. Then, he looked at Lin Feng and said, since Brother Lin Feng doesn't mind, there's naturally no problem. Lin Feng nodded. From Yan's personality, one can see the general appearance of the AI Chi Devil Clan. The Devil Clan is born to kill. Now, they're relying on the breath of a human race to survive. However, he did have something he wanted to see the Aichi Demon Clan's patriarch. Maybe his strength was not worth mentioning in the Origin Awakened Continent's Demon Clan, but since he was the patriarch and the leader of a clan, his knowledge and experience should not be ordinary. There was something that he might be able to give him an answer to. The Aichi Demon Clan lived in Fog City. Like the other clans, they followed the Flame Mist Clan's lead and were respectful. With the Aichi Demon Clan's power and strength, if they did not have the Flame Mist Clan as their backing, they would have become a slave clan. Once a clan became a slave, they would not be far from destruction. For example, Lin Feng's first slave in Origin Awakened Continent, the Imperial Beast Clan's Tai Dong. Now, the Imperial Beast Clan was almost extinct in Origin Awakened Continent. Soon, the Imperial Beast Clan would no longer appear. However, this was not absolute. There was once a clan that was completely annihilated. The clan's population was at its lowest, with less than 2 digits remaining. They were all sold as slaves. But later, there was a youth in the clan who bore a blood feud and endured the humiliation to survive. After knowing the humiliation, he became brave and created a miracle as a slave. He killed his master and regained his freedom. He continued to improve himself through killing. He struggled on the edge of death countless times and climbed up step by step. He created a great achievement that people sang about. He even personally established Assassin, one of the top 8 powerhouses in Origin Awakened Continent. With his own strength, he revived the clan's prestige and turned the impossible into possible. One day, I want to be like the famous assassin god and revive the clan's prestige. Yan's eyes were filled with fighting spirit and blazing flames. Assassin God was an existence akin to a god in Origin Awakened Continent and was admired by many young experts. Where there's a will, there's a way. Lin Feng nodded. Although Yan's innate talent was not much, it was not something that was unchangeable. Willpower and fighting heart could change many things. Brother Lin Feng, you think I can succeed? Yan's eyes lit up. Father always says that I'm dreaming and indulging in wild fantasies. Don't talk about becoming a famous figure like Assassin God. I don't even have the qualifications to join Assassin. Assassin, one of the top 8 powerhouses in Origin Awakened Continent. The strongest assassin organization. They appeared and disappeared unpredictably. Every member had heaven-defying strength. He was not clear about the requirements to join, but he heard that even 4-star experts did not have the qualifications. Why not? Lin Feng said. If you don't even have confidence, how can you succeed? I have confidence. Yin raised his eyebrows and patted his chest. Lin Feng smiled. Dreams were the best catalyst for strength. As Lin Feng entered the Aichi Demon Clan, all sorts of surprised gazes were cast at him. They were all curious about the arrival of a human. It would not be strange if he was from the Flame Mist Clan, but Lin Feng was not one of them. Lin Feng was already used to such gazes. Instead, he looked around with interest. The Aichi Demon Clan's clansmen had similar characteristics to Yin. Their black and white skin had half-spiral demon marks condensed on it. There was a snail-like spiral pattern at the end. Their innate talent was not high and could even be considered the worst among the demon clans. Otherwise, they would not have fallen to such a state. Moreover, they were not smart and did not have the violent and murderous aura of a normal demon clan. They lacked the instincts of a powerhouse. Everything had a reason. For example, the Winged Clan could become the ruler of the Tung Chi continent. Although there was a bit of luck involved, it was also inseparable from the fact that the Winged Clan had the strongest spatial talent. Brother Lin Feng, wait for me here for a moment, Yin said. Okay. Lin Feng nodded. He was not famous. Even if the Aichi Demon Clan was just a middle-low level clan living under someone else's roof, the clan leader was a 3-star expert. He was not someone he could meet. However, with Yan's help, it should not be a big problem. As expected, after waiting for a while, Yin walked out with a smile. Brother Lin Feng, I'll bring you in. Okay. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1693. Brother Lin Feng, this is our patriarch, the famous 3-star elite of Fog City, Xiong Li. Patriarch, this is the human I mentioned to you before, Brother Lin Feng. Xiong, Yin introduced. Junior Lin Feng, I have long heard of Patriarch's name. Lin Feng extended his hand. Haha, little brother is too polite. Our AI Chi Demon Clan rarely has human guests. Xiong Li's appearance was somewhat ugly, but he was quite friendly. He extended his hand to shake Lin Feng's hand without any arrogance. I believe brother Yin has already told you about Guo Xiao's matter. Patriarch, since this matter started because of me, I should come personally. Lin Feng said, Little brother, you are too serious. How can this matter be blamed on you? Patriarch Xiong Li waved his hand and said, I have already heard about the matter from Xiong Yin. You can rest assured, Guo Xiao is a playboy, but he does not have the guts to touch our AI Chi Demon Clan. Lin Feng said, I am afraid that the Great Elder is angry. Guo Xiao was a playboy. There is nothing to fear, but his grandfather, the 4-star Great Elder, was not easy to deal with, regardless of strength or status. He was above the AI Chi Demon Clan. Patriarch Xiong Li hesitated, but also understood the possibility. Don't worry, our AI Chi Demon Clan is not easy to bully. Xiong Li's eyes flashed coldly. If the Flaming Mist Clan attacks us for such a small matter, humph, they're porcelain, we are bricks, who is afraid of who? Lin Feng smiled. He had worried too much. Even the weakest demon clan was still a demon clan. The blood of the demon clan flowed in their bones. In order to survive, they could compromise, but they would not lose themselves. He had originally planned to help the AI Chi Demon Clan, but now it seemed that there was no need. If he was too pretentious, it would seem that he looked down on them. Since Patriarch is confident, then I will not say more. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He changed the topic. Actually, I came to see Patriarch this time because I have something to ask. Oh, Patriarch Xiong Lei was surprised. What is it? It's like this. Lin Feng began to explain the matter of Wu Jin and the Golden Flame Old Demon being sealed. Of course, he hid a lot of information, such as his relationship with them. The 2 demon race powerhouses were both sealed. Now, they could only use less than 1% of their combat strength. But in truth, even the weaker Wu Jin was a peak Black Domain master. At his peak, Wu Jin was much stronger than him. As for Golden Flame Devil, there was no need to even mention him. They were all sealed in Origin Awakened continent, so the answer was naturally here. Others might not know, but Xiong Li, as the leader of a clan, should know a thing or two. Seal. Patriarch Xiong Li frowned and nodded thoughtfully. According to what little brother has said, the one who cast the seal is definitely not an ordinary person. Okay, Lin Feng nodded. Wu Jin and Golden Flame, who were able to seal peak powers, were naturally stronger. There were 2 reasons why he wanted to unseal Wu Jin and Golden Flame. Firstly, he had promised them that he would do so when he had the ability to do so. Secondly, he was in urgent need of combat power. If he could unseal them, they would be a great help to him. He did not want to rely on the Heavenly Tea Pavilion's VIP token to swagger around the city. It was too unreliable. Previously, if the 4-star Great Elder really wanted to fight to the death, the token would be useless. However, if Wu Jin and Golden Flame Devil were to help him in their peak states, he would not need to be afraid of them. Wu Jin alone was stronger than the 4-star Great Elder. Not to mention Golden Flame Devil. I'm not afraid little brother will laugh at me. With this old man's ability, I'm afraid I can't help. Patriarch Xiong Li smiled bitterly. The strength of the powerhouse who cast the seal is far above this old man's. His methods are also unheard of. Lin Feng nodded. As expected. However, he came to find to find a way and not to ask Patriarch Xiong Li to unseal the seal. A 3-star powerhouse was indeed a big shot in the Tongqi continent, but in the Origin Awakened continent, he was just an ordinary powerhouse. Little brother, if you have the backing of the 8 great forces, you might as well ask the powerhouses of your own forces for help. Patriarch Xiong Li pondered. Or you can issue a mission in the Mission Valley and see if there is a way. Of course, if little brother can find the Devil Valley and enter it, the seal problem will be solved. Patriarch Xiong Li did not take long to provide a few ideas. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. What kind of place is the Devil Valley? Patriarch Xiong Li said, the Devil Valley is the gathering place of the devil race in the Origin Awakened continent. It is overflowing with devil chi and is the headquarters of the devil race powerhouses. If they see a devil race powerhouse injured or sealed, they will rescue them. No matter how difficult the seal is, you can find a way to break it in the Devil Valley. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Then where is the Devil Valley? Patriarch Xiong Li's eyes flashed, shaking his head. I'm sorry, little brother. The location of the Devil Valley is not allowed to be disclosed. Violators will be regarded as betrayal of the devil race and will be despised and hunted down by the entire devil race. I'm sorry. Lin Feng apologized. It's fine. Patriarch Xiong Li shook his head. Little brother, don't have too much hope in finding the Devil Valley. Go to the Mission Valley and issue a mission first. As long as the reward is high enough, you might be able to find a powerhouse to help you break the seal. All right. Thank you for your suggestion, Patriarch, Lin Feng replied. You're welcome. After chatting for a while, Lin Feng truly felt the enthusiasm of the Aichi demon clan. This clan was very hospitable and had a good time here. There was no estrangement, and they could get along well with the other clansmen. Here, he made a lot of friends. Xiong Yin was especially reluctant to part with him, but he still had to say goodbye. Along the way, Lin Feng did not see Guoxiao or the 4-star old man again. Through the space transmission array, he left the foggy mist city, heading to the Mission Valley. Mission Valley number 66, the one he had come to before. Since he had come here, he would return here. Lin Feng really did not care about which Mission Valley he would go to. If he chose too many missions, he might as well follow the will of Heaven's will. Break the seal, Lin Feng muttered softly. He had Wu Lin issue a mission with a reward of 100,000 void crystals, with no limit on the number of stars. In the Mission Valley, the higher the bounty, the higher the ranking. Although the reward of 100,000 void crystals was not the highest, it could still rank in the top 100, especially the requirement of no limit on the number of stars, which attracted a lot of attention. After all, many of the top 100 bounties were actually impossible to complete or had hellish difficulty. Suddenly, a new high bounty popped up, so it was naturally eye-catching. Wow, what kind of seal is this? So many void crystals. Amazing, it costs so many void crystals just to break a seal. It's really a waste of money. Too extravagant. The comments were mixed. Lin Feng waited quietly. 100,000 void crystals was nothing. If he could really find a way to break the seal, he would be willing to pay several times more. Chapter 1694. The mission had been issued, but unfortunately, it was all bark and no bite. The high bounty had indeed attracted a lot of capable people. There were even a few 4-star experts, but all of them failed without exception. They were powerless in the face of the powerful seals and shackles. As expected, Lin Feng didn't think that it would be so easy to break the seal. The person who sealed Wu Jin, an old demon golden flame, was at least a 5-star expert or even higher. In other words, to break the seal, one had to be at least a 5-star expert. In the Mission Valley, it was hard to find such an expert. A 5-star expert meant that one's combat strength had reached the peak. Master of the Dark Region was invincible. Such an expert wouldn't appear in the Mission Valley. Mission Valley was more suitable for 1-star to 3-star experts. Novice Village. Lin Feng was happy and wasn't in a hurry. Since he had just entered the Origin Awakened continent, there was nothing wrong with laying a solid foundation here. He had to walk step by step. While paying attention to the various 2-star missions in Mission Valley 66, he also cultivated in the 10,000 times time cultivation array. His days were very peaceful. Although the value of a 2-star mission was much higher than a 1-star mission, the key was that there were too many monks and too little gruel. There were too many 2-star experts, and some 3-star experts who lacked space crystals would come to snatch missions. In more than 10 years, Lin Feng didn't snatch any valuable missions, so he couldn't earn space crystals. Fortunately, he didn't care. He didn't lack space crystals. The reason why he took missions was more to experience life and familiarize himself with the Origin Awakened continent. Compared to those high bounty protection missions and teaching missions, Lin Feng preferred exploration missions. Because the Origin Awakened continent was changing every moment, no one knew what would appear in the next second. Therefore, there would always be some strange areas in the Origin Awakened continent, such as valleys, caves, volcanoes, and so on. These areas that needed to be explored were often accompanied by many exploration missions. The reward for exploration wasn't high, but it was interesting. Moreover, exploration often yielded many treasures. In terms of value, it was far more valuable than the reward. Of course, the difficulty and danger of exploration were equally high. To Lin Feng, if he were to go out and train by himself, it would be almost impossible for him to find some areas that could be explored. However, it would be different if he were to accept missions. Exploration missions would often appear in the Mission Valley, which was very convenient. However, there weren't many wasteland reclamation missions for 2-star experts. There were more 3-star and 4-star experts. After all, the difficulty of pioneering was obvious. Becoming a 3-star expert is a long and arduous journey. Lin Feng cultivated in the time cultivation array. The 1:10,000 time ratio made him feel like a fish in water. Although it couldn't be compared to the time mystic realm in the Beichan River, the two were completely different. It didn't matter how long one cultivated in the time cultivation array. Furthermore, it was connected to the outside world. I'm about to comprehend the high-grade, true meaning of space, spatial seal. In terms of strength, I can become a true top-level master of the dark region. In terms of combat power, it won't be a problem for me to surpass the threshold of a top-tier master of darkness. After entering the Mission Valley, the first thing Lin Feng cultivated was the true meaning of space. Combat power was important, but so was one's strength. The stronger one was, the greater the combat power one could display. This included the increase of one's physical strength, the transformation of one's life force, the ability to sense the energy of heaven and earth, etc. All of these were closely related to one's strength. The high-grade, true meaning of space, spatial seal, was something he had cultivated in the Coral Imperial Palace. Although he had only comprehended a portion of it, it had greatly increased his strength. Now, in the Origin Awakened continent, where the spatial energy was even stronger, his comprehension of spatial seal had increased by leaps and bounds. In just over 10 years, he was already close to completely comprehending it. So that's how it is. The black vortex rotated as Lin Feng absorbed large amounts of spatial energy. The spatial energy in the Origin Awakened continent was too abundant, allowing the innate ability of the black vortex to be displayed without restraint. His comprehension of the true meaning of space was even clearer. This is spatial seal. Lin Feng opened his eyes slightly, revealing a wisp of light. With a casual movement of his hands, the space in the distance seemed to have stopped. In an instant, with a whoosh, it rapidly squeezed inwards, tightening to the limit in an instant. It wasn't an attack-type true meaning of space, but a control-type true meaning of space wasn't bad either. This was because Lin Feng didn't lack offensive means. Moreover, control-type true meanings of space were often more versatile. With the enhancement of the black vortex, my spatial talent isn't inferior to the 8-winged winged emperor. Spatial seal can be displayed to a sufficiently powerful extent. Lin Feng was very satisfied with the increase in his strength. However, I'm still very far away from becoming a 3-star expert. To become a 3-star expert, One's combat power had to be at the peak of the Black Domain Master's perfection. For the time being, he was still very far away. My potential when I just entered the Origin Awakened continent should be more or less finished. Lin Feng sensed his strength and clenched his fists. Compared to the North Continent, the Origin Awakened continent had much purer heaven and earth energy. Even if he comprehended another high-grade, true meaning of space, it wouldn't cause a fundamental change in his strength. The next cultivation direction was either fusion of laws or the realm of saber techniques. However, both weren't things that could be accomplished overnight. Let's go see what missions there are. Lin Feng still preferred to take on missions. Compared to closed-door cultivation, he preferred challenges and exploring the unknown. It was filled with all kinds of uncertainties. However, there weren't enough 2-star missions, especially the exploration missions. They were all snatched up as soon as they appeared. For someone like him who went into closed-door cultivation for a few years, it was basically impossible to receive a good exploration mission. The previous 2 missions were ordinary and didn't yield much. As expected, there aren't any. Lin Feng's gaze swept across the mission bulletin board. The missions were clearly arranged. There were only a dozen or so 2-star missions, and they were all things that no one was willing to do. Lin Feng wasn't interested in them. Although he wanted to take on missions, it didn't mean that he wanted to take on boring missions. "Hey, Brother Lin, you're out of closed-door cultivation?" A thin and handsome man walked over from afar. He was carrying a bow that was taller than him. There was a pair of faintly discernible, beautiful wings on his back. There was a 3-star medal on his chest. He was the 3-star expert of the elf race, Northern Stream. "Brother Northern." Lin Feng turned his head and greeted him. In the past 10 years, he had made a few friends in the Mission Valley. Northern Stream was one of them. They had gone on exploration missions together before. Other than him, there was also Grass Python and others. As usual the next day, "How is it? Have you received a mission?" Northern Stream smiled as he walked over. Lin Feng said, "How can it be that easy? It's not like you don't know how popular 2-star missions are." Glancing over, Lin Feng said, "Even you, a 3-star martial artist, are fighting with us for food. Life is tough, and my pockets are tight. What can I do?" Northern Stream shrugged. Lin Feng said, "Or I can go to other mission valleys to take a look." Northern Stream shook his head and said, "Just the teleportation fee alone is a large sum. You might not even be able to receive a mission. Actually, every mission valley is the same. There are too many monks and too little gruel. Whether you receive a mission or not depends on your luck." That was true. What was different about the mission valley? Lin Feng said helplessly, "It seems that I have to continue my closed-door cultivation." "No need." Northern Stream said, "Even if there are no exploration missions, Brother Lin can still go to the 18 heavenly zones to train, right?" Chapter 1695. 1 Void, 3 Perils, and 18 Perils. This was the most dangerous region in Origin Awakened continent. Disregarding the 1 Void and 3 Perils, the 18 Perils were also extremely dangerous. A 2-star or 3-star martial artist had a high chance of dying, not to mention a 1-star martial artist. Lin Feng frowned slightly. He naturally knew about the Origin Awakened continent's 18 Perils. He had originally planned to enter when his battle strength reached 3-star. After all, his current battle strength was just over 2-star, and it would be difficult for him to enter. "Isn't it too early for me to enter now?" Lin Feng asked. "It's not early," Beijian said. "Many disciples of great clans and factions start their training from 2-star. They don't have to enter the most dangerous region in the Perils. It's not a bad idea to first adapt outside the Perils." Lin Feng nodded. He had also heard that the perils of the Perils might not be that high. "It's a pity that I'm not familiar with the 18 Perils." Lin Feng thought about it and rejected. He had only just familiarized himself with the surroundings of Mission Valley 66, and only a little. Origin Awakened continent was huge. The 18 heavenly perils did not have an undeserved reputation. It had always had a unique position in the Origin Awakened continent for so many years. It was not as simple as it seemed to be. Based on what he knew, when a 2-star expert entered the 18 heavenly perils, the average probability of dying was as high as 80%. Even 3-star martial artists had an average 50% chance of dying. Of course, 3-star martial artists would normally enter the 18 perils, and the dangers they would encounter would be different. If Brother Lin doesn't mind, you can travel with us. Beijian invited. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. Beijian shrugged and said helplessly, I have no choice. Life is hard, and my pockets are empty. I can't get any missions, so I can only go to the 18 perils. I've spoken to Ru Sun and Grass Python, and they are fine with it. Lin Feng let out a soft. It was not surprising. Normally, martial artists who accepted missions in the Mission Valley needed void crystals. This was the most basic currency in Origin Awakened continent. 2-star and 3-star martial artists were in a period of rapid growth, so they needed it the most. Northern Stream and Grass Python were both 3-star martial artists, while Eru was a 2-star martial artist. However, she was very proficient in soul power, and her strength was close to that of a 3-star martial artist. The three of us are used to working together. Even if we meet a 4-star martial artist, we can still fight him. If we only wander around the periphery of the 18 natural hazards, there's basically no danger. Beijian said, Brother Lin, if you are interested, let's go together. There's no harm in having one more. Moreover, Brother Lin, your defense is pretty good. You're a good match for the grass python. Lin Feng smiled. In terms of strength, he was indeed inferior to Beijian and the other two. He was just 1 star lower. However, because he had the chaotic hole mysterious treasure, his defense was not inferior to theirs. In fact, it was even stronger. He had to admit that the Northern Stream suggestion was very attractive. With the three of them as his companions, not only was the danger much lower, he could also use this opportunity to understand the 18 natural hazards. Furthermore, they had worked together before, so there was no problem in getting along well with each other. Whether it was the Northern Stream, Eru, or the grass python, they all had good personalities. Which dangerous place are you planning to go to? Lin Feng asked. Each of the 18 heavenly danger zones had their own unique characteristics, so it wasn't easy to choose. The 10,000 evil region. Beijian didn't hesitate. We discussed for dozens of days, and in the end, we decided to go to the 10,000 evil region with a vote of 2-1. Isn't that place more dangerous? Lin Feng was puzzled. The 10,000 evil region is ranked in the top 3 of the 18 heavenly danger zones. Why didn't you choose the other places? Among the 18 heavenly danger zones, the average death rate for a 2-star martial artist was 80%. However, this was just an average. Some heavenly danger zones were less dangerous, perhaps only 20% or 30%. However, some heavenly danger zones had a terrifying death rate. For example, the 10,000 evil region had a death rate of more than 90%. Because the 10,000 evil region has evil energy, Beijian said. I've heard of it. Lin Feng nodded. But isn't evil energy only able to affect one's mind? Does it have other uses? Yes, Beijian replied. The 10,000 evil region is filled with evil energy all year round. Although the outer region isn't as dense as the inner region, it's still not bad. If you're lucky, you can dig up evil ores, evil crystals, and even evil creatures. Even if you're unlucky, you'll at least encounter a mutated beast. If the mutated beast has blood-red eyes and shows signs of going crazy, then there must be an evil heart in its body when we kill it. An evil heart has a certain value. Beijian smiled. Of course, our target is still an evil creature. It'll be great if we can find an evil creature. The 10,000 evil region has a high limit, so it's the most suitable place for us. Ru Sun, grass python, and I will be in danger in any of the inner regions of the 18 heavenly danger zones. However, the outer regions are very safe. If that's the case, why don't we choose the most profitable one? Also, the 10,000 evil region isn't far from Mission Valley number 66. We can save some teleportation fees. Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. Even teleportation fees were included. Beijian was really haggling over every penny. Are you really that short of money? Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. Yes, very short of money. Beijian glanced at Lin Feng's peak chaotic hole mysterious treasure with envy. My strength is close to that of a 4-star expert, but because I lack money, I can't buy good equipment. That's why I haven't been able to pass the test. If you can become a 4-star expert, you won't be short of money when you receive missions. Beijian said excitedly. The difference between a 4-star expert and a 3-star expert was like a watershed. Experts at this level were already considered true experts in the Origin Awakened continent. They were peak Black Domain masters. Therefore, there were a lot of missions at this level. However, 4-star experts usually didn't lack money. Therefore, the number of martial artists who completed these missions was much lower. Let me think about it. When are you leaving? Lin Feng asked. The grass python hasn't returned yet. We plan to leave in 30 days. If Brother Lin is interested, you can wait for us at the teleportation array. Beijian smiled. I'll leave first. Think about it. I will. This was a rare opportunity. Lin Feng only thought about it for a few days before he came to a decision. Instead of waiting aimlessly for missions, he might as well take the initiative to find one. Beijian was right. He could go to the 10,000 Evil region to train now. Although he was only a 2-star expert, he had a 3-star expert by his side. The outer area of the 10,000 Evil region wasn't that dangerous. He could give it a try. Moreover, the evil aura in the 10,000 Evil region was obviously the power of the demon race or the aura of darkness. He couldn't break the bindings of Wu Jin and the Golden Flame Old Fiend in the Mission Valley. Perhaps he could do it after being tainted by the evil aura? Let's give it a try. Lin Feng picked up the Crimson Sun Battle Saber. Before entering the 10,000 Evil region, he would work hard to improve his saber technique and consolidate his close combat strength. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1696. From the Supreme Boundary Saber Technique to the Silver Plateau Saber Technique. The power of Lin Feng's saber technique also increased as his saber technique realm improved. From the first appearance of the Heavenly Saber to the Heavenly Way Marrow, the power increased by more than tenfold. Currently, the first move of the Silver Plateau Saber Technique, Thorn's Removal, could only exert 40% of the Heavenly Way Marrow realm. The second move, Thorn's Cutting, could only exert 50%. There was still a lot of room for improvement. However, the creation of a saber technique was not that simple. The key was the comprehension of the saber technique realm. If he only comprehended 40% of the Heavenly Way Marrow realm, it was almost impossible to create a saber technique with 70% or 80% of the realm's power. The best way to improve the saber technique realm was through actual combat. Only real combat could transform the saber technique. Let's go to the Arena of Kings. Lin Feng turned around and headed there. The Arena of Kings was not a real combat, but it was more efficient than practicing alone. Moreover, it was not bad to learn more about the attack methods of the Origin Awakening continent experts. Every city had something like the King's Arena. Lin Feng did not choose Fog City. First, he did not feel comfortable in Fog City the last time. Second, Fog City was too small, and the Arena of Kings was lacking in both scale and number. The Arena of Kings was held in the respective cities for battles below 4-star level. Therefore, the bigger and more prosperous the city, the more popular the Arena of Kings would be. Dayuan City. Lin Feng entered a large city nearby through the teleportation formation. The city gate alone was more than 5 times higher than Fog City. Human experts stood outside the city. All of them were 2-star experts. They were expressionless and meticulous. There were no guards in Fog City because there was no need for them. However, there were a lot of people coming and going to Yuan City. Experts from various races gathered there. Lin Feng was shocked as soon as he entered. The city was huge, and it was more than 10 times livelier than Yuan City in the North Continent. It was crowded, and there was an endless stream of people in the streets and alleys. There were figures galloping in the sky everywhere. The experts of the Yuan human tribe patrolled back and forth, maintaining order and managing the entire city in an orderly manner. The Flame Mist tribe was only a medium-sized tribe. The Dayuan human tribe was a superior tribe. The difference was more than 10,000 miles. In the Flaming Mist race, a 3-star expert was already considered an expert in the race. However, in this place, They were only captains in charge of patrolling. Even the top 4-star expert of the Flaming Mist tribe was nothing compared to the Savannah Human tribe. If the Savannah Human tribe was in the outside world, they would probably be able to wipe out the Winged Men tribe. Lin Feng sighed. The 3 winged monarchs of the eastern, southern, and western continents were nothing compared to the Savannah Human tribe. However, the big clans of the Origin Awakened continent didn't care about the outside world at all. The Tongchi continent was like a natural danger zone, and the Origin Awakened continent was the core area of the natural danger zone. The other 4 continents were just the outer area. In terms of energy intensity and area, the difference was huge. The King's Arena here should be very lively. Lin Feng quickly found and entered. Just like the Purple Star Tower and the Heavenly Tea Pavilion, the King's Arena was a landmark in every city. The huge King's Arena had a ladder-like structure with a total of 5 floors. Only those with a star medal could enter each floor. The first floor had 1 star, the second floor had 2 stars, and the third floor had 3 stars. Of course, it was a different story if one became a VIP of the arena. No matter which floor they entered, there would be no problem. This was similar to the Heavenly Tea Pavilion. It was very simple to become a VIP. One just had to pay enough void crystals. The King's Arena is already very rich with this VIP fee alone. Lin Feng glanced at the fee for being a VIP. In fact, it wasn't much, but the VIP didn't get much either. It was just the right to watch. It's more of a symbol of status. Lin Feng wasn't interested in being a VIP, even if it was just a small amount of money to him. He came to the King's Arena to fight, not to watch. Wu Tang already has a 99-win streak. Amazing. It seems like he's going for a 100-win streak today, right? Yes, it's not that easy. His opponents were all at the Platinum stage. Do you think the 100 Battle King Peach is so easy to get? What's impossible? There are even people who can get the 100 Battle King Peach. That's right. I think Wu Tang can definitely do it. Lin Feng had just arrived at the second floor of the King's Arena when he heard a heated discussion. They were talking about the upcoming battle. The 2-star Jade Silver Elite, Wu Tang, versus the 2-star Platinum Elite, Mi Yaozi. However, he didn't seem to understand what they were talking about. 99 wins, 100 Battle King Peach, 1,000 Battle King Peach. Lin Feng looked around. He wasn't interested in the battle, but he was curious about what the crowd was talking about. Let's just ask and register for the challenge. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. He found a registration area on the second floor that was conspicuous. There were staff members of the King's Arena here. They were in charge of registration, arranging the matches, making records, and so on. The staff members were busy. Lin Feng walked over. "Hello," Lin Feng said. "Newcomer." The staff member looked up and glanced at Lin Feng. "In." Lin Feng nodded. They recognized a martial artist who often competed here. He was obviously a new face. Medal. The staff member was concise and comprehensive. His movements were very practiced and fast. Lin Feng took off his 2-star medal and handed it over. Under the staff's questions and answers, he quickly filled in the information. "This is your King's Arena badge." Lin Feng reached out and took it. Unlike the 2-star medal, the King's Arena badge was very small. It was printed with the logo of the King's Arena. The manufacturing method was also very simple. The one he was holding was bronze in color. There are a total of 4 types of King's Arena badges: bronze, jade silver, platinum, and King's Diamond. The one you're holding now is the bronze medal. It represents the bronze medal. After 10 consecutive victories, you will receive the jade silver medal. After 100 consecutive victories, you will receive the platinum medal. After 1,000 consecutive victories, you will receive the highest honor, the King's Diamond Medal. Different emblems lead to different challenge fees and prizes. The specific rules are inside. Take a good look at them. After finishing his words, the staff member directly handed over the top of the thick stack of picture albums on the table. From the beginning to the end, his expression was calm and indifferent. It was completely standard procedure. Lin Feng took it and did not care about his tone. It was very normal. Even if he was a staff member, he was a 2-star martial artist like him. Moreover, he had a strong background and had the right to be arrogant. "Do you want to register for the competition now?" The staff member raised his head and asked. "Okay," Lin Feng answered. 1 hour later, battle arena number 121. The staff member quickly recorded and said without raising his head. Lin Feng nodded. Then, he took the picture album and left. 1 hour later, it's still early. Lin Feng looked left and right and saw that the group of 2-star martial artists were all gathering in one direction. He let out a soft "oh" in his heart and also followed the crowd. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1697. Into Yuan City's King's Arena. The battle of 100 victories was about to begin. Lin Feng followed the crowd into Arena 1 and knew what was going to happen. The arena that could accommodate 10,000 people at the same time was already filled with people. There were no empty seats, and the atmosphere was very lively. Both sides were already in the arena, and the supporters in the audience were cheering. In the middle of the arena, the Arbiter King was already in place and was introducing the two sides in detail. One was the 2-star Jade Silver Elite, Wu Tang, and the other was the 2-star Platinum Elite, Mi Yaozi. The Platinum rank was one level higher than the Jade Silver rank. The fact that Mi Yaozi was in the Platinum rank meant that she had completed 100 consecutive victories, and the other 2-star Elite, Wu Tang, currently had 99 consecutive victories. He only needed one more victory to become a 2-star Platinum Elite. However, it was not easy. Brother Su, how much did you bet? I bet 50 void crystals on Wu Tang. 118. The odds are higher. That's right, you bet on the wrong person. You should have bet on Mi Yaozi. It's very difficult to win 100 consecutive victories, especially Wu Tang's first challenge. According to the statistics, the failure rate is as high as 95%. It can't be, right? What do you think? It's not that easy to become a Platinum rank, and you can even get 100 battles peach. I'm mainly looking at the odds. Mi Yaozi's odds are 1. 2, it's too low. Even if it's too low, we still have to suppress him. Think about it. A Platinum ranker will always be slightly stronger than a Silver ranker. Moreover, he only managed to reach Platinum ranker after achieving 100 consecutive victories, right? Lin Feng smiled knowingly when he heard the conversation between the two gamblers. Betting was also a huge source of income for the King's Arena. Otherwise, the VIP fees would not be enough to cover the high challenge fees and prize money. He was only a bronze rank, and he could get 1 void crystal and 2 void crystals for winning. The Jade Silver rank was even higher. If it was a 3-star or 4-star, the challenge fees would be even higher. However, he was not interested in that. Lin Feng sat down and flipped through the picture book in his hand while listening to the Arbiter King's introduction, waiting for the competition to begin. The booklet was filled with the rules and introductions of the King's Arena. Lin Feng quickly flipped through the pages and understood quite a lot. The 100 Battle King Peach and 1,000 Battle King Peach were unique to the King's Arena. One was used to enhance one's physical strength, and the other was used to enhance one's spatial perception. The King Peach was never sold to the public, and only the martial artists under the King's Arena's influence could obtain it. In addition, it was obtained through winning 100 or 1,000 matches in a row. There are challenge fees, victory bonuses, and even King Peaches. No wonder the King's Arena is so popular. Lin Feng also sighed. The King's Arena was very good at using its own advantages. It was no wonder that it could become one of the top 8 forces. Warring King Peach. Lin Feng also wanted to obtain it, but he knew in his heart that with his current strength, it would be impossible to obtain it. However, with his physical fitness, 1 less heaven and earth fruit wouldn't make much of difference. As for the 1,000 Battle King Peach, there was no need to even think about it. Winning streaks and winning totals were different. It was much harder to win streaks, and every match was against a different opponent. To be able to obtain 99 consecutive victories, this Wu Tang was obviously not an ordinary person. Lin Feng looked over. This was a martial artist with 4 arms, and each arm had a weapon. His battle intent was clear. Obviously, this was a martial artist who was extremely good at attacking. On the other side, Mi Yaozi was a masked woman in a white dress. Her appearance couldn't be seen clearly, and she gave off a very mysterious feeling. Holding a horsetail whisk, she was like a painting completely opposite to Wu Tang. Modest as a valley. Lin Feng's intuition told him that this Miyaozi was very strong. Platinum rank martial artists are indeed different. While he was thinking, the King's Arbiter announced the start of the match. Wu Tang, who had 4 arms and 4 weapons, attacked fiercely from the start. His thunderous attacks were enough to make people breathless. 4 swords, they were of different shapes. There were short swords, long swords, sharp swords, and broadswords. 4 different swords attacked at the same time. Lin Feng was secretly speechless. Just using 4 swords at once was already very impressive. At this moment, it was as if there were 4 2-star martial artists attacking at the same time. Their coordination was extremely good. To be able to obtain 99 consecutive victories, this Wu Tang is indeed very strong. Lin Feng sighed inwardly. Putting himself in the shoes of the battle, he closed his eyes. Cold sweat couldn't help but drip down. Very strong. With his own strength, it would probably be difficult to resist. Hua. Lin Feng opened his eyes and saw Miyaozi, who was holding a horsetail whisk, drawing a gentle breeze. Like a cyclone, she wrapped around Wu Tang's attacks. Her white figure moved with the wind and changed with the attacks. Her attacks were as ghostly as her movements. Amidst the deafening cheers, Wu Tang's attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Miyaozi's defense was airtight. Although she was a woman, her usage of strength was above Wu Tang's. He's going to lose. Although it was still far from the outcome, Lin Feng was very clear that this battle couldn't be fought. Wu Tang's strength was much weaker than Miyaozi's. One was silver rank and the other was platinum rank. The difference of 1 rank was very obvious. As expected, Wu Tang lost the match without any suspense under the lamentation of the surrounding crowd. Miyaozi had obviously shown mercy. Wu Tang did not suffer any injuries, but his lonely and helpless eyes clearly showed his miserable and fragile heart. This was a complete and utter defeat. Wu Tang's strength was far inferior to Miyaozi's. 99 consecutive victories. How glorious was that? The momentum was very shocking. He wanted to achieve 100 consecutive victories in one go and enter the platinum rank, but he was ruthlessly beaten to the point of being disoriented. This was a huge blow to Wu Tang. No wonder they said that the chances of winning 100 consecutive victories for the first time are very small. Lin Feng looked at Miyaozi. The latter was holding a horsetail whisk with both hands and bowing slightly. She was very polite. To Wu Tang, this was a very important match, because if he lost, he would have to start all over again. But to Miyaozi, it was a very ordinary match. She won because her strength was stronger than her opponent. If a 2-star platinum-ranked expert is already this strong, how strong would the highest Diamond Emperor be? Lin Feng's eyes revealed a trace of light. He didn't think much of the King's Arena before, but now, a raging flame was burning in his heart. He really wanted to challenge her. Challenge 100 consecutive victories, challenge 1,000 consecutive victories, and become the highest diamond rank in the King's Arena. I will challenge her. I will be stronger than her. Lin Feng's gaze fell on Miyaozi for a few seconds. Then he left his seat and walked out of Arena 1. It was about time. He headed to Arena 121. It was time to participate in his first King's Arena match. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1698. He had only watched 1 match, but it was already unforgettable. This was an extremely high-level battle. The battle between Wu Tang and Miyaozi was quite exciting. It was immersive and made one's blood boil. Battle. Lin Feng was also very excited at this time. His desire for battle was very strong. There were only a few thousand seats in Arena number 121. It was completely incomparable to Arena number 1. Around 90% of the seats were empty, and there were almost no spectators. There were only a few bored people sitting there and some professional gamblers. His opponent was also a newcomer. Generally speaking, the battle rules of the King's Arena were like this: newcomers against newcomers, and the total number of wins and winning percentage would be determined by the same level. However, if they had fought once, they would not be arranged to fight again. Don't be nervous, Lin Feng said to the youth in front of him. The latter was slightly startled. He stopped his trembling body and looked at Lin Feng in shock. It seemed that he did not expect his opponent to comfort him. Lin Feng nodded indifferently. He could see that his opponent was a real newcomer. If he guessed correctly, he should have just advanced to 2 stars like Yan Liqiang and came to the King's Arena to fight. How many people would not be nervous in the first match? Lin Feng was obviously an exception. With the Arbiter King's order, the battle was about to start. The youth who was nervous just now roared and suddenly pounced, wanting to seize the initiative. This was the best way to eliminate nervousness. He would wholeheartedly throw himself into the battle. However, sometimes forcibly suppressing nervousness like this would often backfire, because he would use too much strength. After dodging a few times, Lin Feng quickly counterattacked. He took advantage of his opponent's flaw and cleanly landed on the ground to end the battle. The entire battle took less than 10 seconds. It was as fast as lightning. The Arbiter King was also startled. The surrounding spectator stands also quieted down. Their eyes were filled with shock and astonishment as they looked at Lin Feng. The eyes of many gamblers even lit up. To them, Lin Feng was like a treasure. Newcomers were the easiest to upset. Real professional gamblers knew very well what they could get from newcomers. Lin Feng wins. As the Arbiter King announced the result, Lin Feng walked forward and shook hands with his opponent, who had yet to recover from his shock and was so nervous that he was sweating profusely. Then, he suddenly turned around and left under everyone's gazes. The second match, the third match, the fourth match. It was very easy. Lin Feng easily passed every round. It wasn't that Lin Feng had overwhelming strength. In fact, Lin Feng wasn't much stronger than his opponents. It was just that his opponents in the previous few matches were obviously inexperienced. They couldn't display 100% of their strength, and only a few could display 80% of their strength. Strength was one thing, but performance was another. It wasn't until the sixth match that Lin Feng began to encounter some obstacles. The opponents he encountered here were no weaklings. There were some experienced veterans mixed in with some powerful newbies. The sixth match was won with great difficulty. In the seventh round, he won without a doubt. However, in the eighth match, after dozens of exchanges, Lin Feng was defeated. 8 wins and 0 losses. Lin Feng looked at his record. After defeating him, his opponent's record had become 8 wins and 0 losses, obtaining 8 consecutive victories. On the other hand, his record was 7 wins and 1 loss, and he was back to square one. Basically, there was no difference between 7 wins and 1 loss. In order to advance to the next stage, the silver grade, he needed to win 10 consecutive victories. Very interesting. Lin Feng became interested and decided not to go back. The King's Arena itself had an independent sealed cultivation room, and one only needed to spend a few space crystals to live in it. What comes from sheep's back? He had fought 8 matches and earned 8 space crystals from the challenge fee alone and 14 space crystals from the prize money. Although the independent cultivation room was a bit expensive, it didn't matter. Lin Feng had millions of space crystals. He didn't lack money at all. 2-star rankers rely on the King's Arena to make money, so they don't lack money. However, Lin Feng also knew that the risk in the King's Arena was relatively high. He was only at the bronze grade now. After entering the silver grade, the battles would be much more intense and cruel. Not every opponent was merciful. Broken limbs were a common occurrence in the King's Arena. Serious injuries were common, and death was also inevitable. No matter how strong a martial artist was, they couldn't escape. However, his defense was relatively outstanding among the 2-star rankers. His life-saving methods were also first-rate. With the King's Arbiter by his side, even if he lost, it wouldn't be a big deal. The second 10 consecutive challenges. In this round, Lin Feng lost the 5th battle. After resting for 2 days, Lin Feng began to challenge again. Round after round, he didn't stop. He constantly improved and strengthened his saber technique through victories and defeats. In less than 20 days, Lin Feng fought 20 consecutive rounds at the speed of 1 round per day. He was like an Iron Man. Although it was a bit special, it was nothing. The King's Arena had stood tall for many years, and it had seen all kinds of rankers. Not to mention 20 consecutive rounds. There were even 200 consecutive rounds. Moreover, Every round was 100 consecutive challenges. In comparison, Lin Feng's 10 consecutive challenges paled in comparison. In the 20 rounds of challenges, the worst was a defeat in the second round, and the best was a defeat in the ninth round. He hadn't fought 10 consecutive battles. However, Lin Feng, who had accumulated enough experience, finally faced his first 10 consecutive challenges in the 21st round. His opponent was a 2-star silver ranker. Without any suspense, he was defeated beautifully. The difference in strength is very obvious. Lin Feng shook his head. In the previous 20 rounds, although he lost every round, he lost in fierce battles. However, this time, he lost without any suspense. The two were completely different. After all, my strength has only just broken through the threshold of a top-notch Black Region Master. Lin Feng understood in his heart that compared to a true 2-star ranker, he still had a long way to go. Not to mention someone like Miyaozi, he couldn't even beat Wu Tang, who had fought 99 consecutive battles. His 10 consecutive opponents were 2-star silver rankers who were clearly stronger than him. However, there was still some improvement in the past 20 days. In the next 7 days, Lin Feng fought 2 more 10 consecutive challenges, both of which ended in failure. Although he still wanted to continue, the 30 days he had agreed to with Beijian were up. It's about time. Lin Feng didn't have much emotion. The challenges here were just like comparing notes. With his current strength, he wouldn't have any breakthroughs if he continued to challenge here. Currently, his strength was at this level, between the ancient bronze rank and the silver rank. I will be back. Lin Feng's eyes were as bright as a fierce tiger's. He didn't feel discouraged or give up. Instead, he was filled with fighting spirit and an unyielding spirit as he steadily left the king's arena. The next time I come back, I will become a king. Lin Feng didn't even turn his head. The flames in his heart were burning. The more challenging something was, the more interested he was. Step over it, conquer it. To read the latest novel, please visit Chapter 1699, Mission Valley 66, at the teleportation point. Haha, I told you that Brother Lin would definitely come. Northern Stream had a smile on his face. The bow on his back shone brightly, giving off a bright luster. It complemented his wings perfectly, making him look even more handsome and extraordinary. Damn it, I lost to you. The grass python muttered as it took out 10 void crystals and gave it to Beijian. Take it, take it. Thank you. Beijian waved his hand. Lin Feng laughed involuntarily. The two of them were betting on whether he would come or not. I'm sorry, Brother Grass Python. I made you lose money. Lin Feng said with a smile. It's just a small amount. The grass python waved its hand, but it did not care at all. It shook its head and looked at Beijian with disdain. Do you think I'm a money grubber like Beijian? If I made him lose 10 void crystals, he would probably cry for his parents. Big head, don't slander me. When did I do that? Beijian glared at it. Sigh, the days are tough, and my pockets are tight. What should I do? I'm so worried. A gentle female voice came from beside him, imitating Northern Stream's tone. She had a beautiful smile on her face, and when she laughed, it was as beautiful as 100 flowers blooming. Ha ha! The grass python laughed loudly. Well said, ah son. Shameless May's son. Beijian was furious. Who's shameless? Your whole family is shameless. Iru glared at Beijian with her hands on her hips and shouted, Our Iluo tribe is born beautiful. What's wrong with being beautiful? Iru looked at Lin Feng with her big watery eyes and raised her long eyebrows. That's right, Lin Feng said with a smile. Ru Sun is very beautiful. Hearing this, Iru's beautiful face instantly turned gloomy, revealing a beautiful smile. Her pair of crystal, jade-like, beautiful eyes narrowed. Lin Feng really knows how to talk. He's not like a money grubber who spouts lies with his eyes open every day. I'm a top beauty. Yes, yes, yes. Beijian rolled his eyes and was too lazy to argue. Are you done fooling around, you money grubber? Let's go. The grass python shook its cauldron-like head and said in a muffled voice. Beijian looked at Lin Feng questioningly. Lin Feng nodded. Beijian waved his hand and said, Let's go. Before he finished speaking, the grass python had already swayed its head and charged forward like a heavy tank. Iru also had a bright and beautiful smile on her face. She raised her head slightly like a swan as she walked forward. Lin Feng smiled and followed behind them. Northern Stream, Grass Python, and Iru. These three were good friends that he had met here. Because they had carried out missions together before, they were already very familiar with each other. The Grass Python was a member of the Great Earthmang tribe. This tribe was terrifyingly powerful, and their body proportions were exaggerated. Their heads and upper bodies were huge, and their arms were incomparably thick and solid. The Grass Python had a disgusting but kind face. In the three-man team, it was the main melee attacker, but its defense was only average. Iru was a member of the Iluwa tribe. This tribe could be said to be one of the most beautiful human tribes in the Origin Awakening continent. Everyone in this tribe was handsome and beautiful. Iru was not surprised. She loved to hear others praise her beauty. Iru's attack style was very diverse. She specialized in guerrilla warfare and soul attacks. In the team, she was mainly responsible for restraining, scouting, and so on. She was very versatile and flexible. The leader of the three was Northern Stream. As an elf, he had inherited the archery skills that the elves were most proficient in. His archery realm was extremely high, and his strength was close to that of a 4-star expert. He was unquestionably the strongest of the three. Moreover, he was very meticulous and had the demeanor of a general. His only flaw was that he was a little greedy for money. Lin Feng was very clear about his position in the team. Naturally, Northern Stream did not invite him to join to help him. No one would be so kind as to help a newcomer. In the Mission Valley, everyone was the same. Only when there was value and need would there be cooperation. It was very realistic, but it was indeed so. The Grass Python specialized in offense, but not defense. Iru's restraining abilities were strong, but her defense was the weakest. Northern Stream was invincible in long-range attacks, but once he was in close range, he would not be able to use his full strength. This team combination was invincible in offense, first class in restraining, but third class in defense. With him, although it was not enough to make their defense first class, it could at least be upgraded to second class. His arrival could free up the Grass Python and allow it to cooperate with Iru. They could give up on defense and attack to the maximum. As for himself, he could cooperate with Northern Stream, one for defense and one for shooting. In addition, he could also cooperate with Iru to restrain the main enemy, while Northern Stream and the Grass Python to clear the area. The original team's ability was not bad, and he was more flexible and well-rounded. Of course, the other important reason was he had less points. I'm afraid that's the biggest reason. Lin Feng looked at Northern Stream's back, and the corners of his mouth curled up. To the 10,000 evil territory. The framework of the four-man team was already set. What was left was to get used to each other. Basically, it was not difficult. After all, the three of them were already very good at cooperating with each other. Adding Lin Feng would not mess up their cooperation. In addition, they had temporarily cooperated with each other during the previous mission. Therefore, they knew each other very well. What a heavy evil chi! Iru's beautiful face showed a hint of discomfort as her beautiful brows furrowed slightly. This is the aura of darkness that contains the law of dark demons. Northern Stream's handsome face was serious. He said slowly, "The evil aura in the 10,000 evil realm is very famous. It can affect one's mind, especially in the midst of killing. Do you understand, Big Head?" The Grass Python said, "I'm not afraid." "Okay, be careful." Northern Stream nodded and glanced at Lin Feng. "You should be fine, right, Brother Lin?" Lin Feng smiled. Among the four of them, he was the one with the strongest resistance to evil aura. He cultivated the 6 paths of darkness and was especially proficient in the path of dark demons. To be honest, the evil aura here was not harmful to him. Instead, it was beneficial to him. As for the effect on his mind, even if he did not have the 10,000 origin mustard stone, the evil aura would not affect him at all. "Let's go. The evil aura is calling us." Northern Stream's face suddenly turned serious after he finished his explanation. His eyes lit up, and he could not wait. Captain is dreaming again. Iru rolled her eyes. Huh. The grass python laughed loudly. That's more like a money grubber. He is not like him when he is so serious. Get lost. Northern Stream scolded with a smile. Lin Feng smiled. He got along very well with the three of them. The atmosphere in the team was very good. He looked at the mysterious 10,000 evil realm. It was the third most dangerous place among the 18 dangerous zones. He followed the team and entered the endless evil aura. The dark bloodline in his body was restless. Lin Feng clenched his fists and started a new journey. To him, this first trip to the dangerous zones will be very unforgettable. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1700. The 10,000 evil region had been corroded by the evil aura for many years, making it extremely eerie. Phew! Even the wind carried a trace of coldness. The evil aura covered the entire region, and the roars of strange beasts could be heard from time to time, adding to the mysteriousness of this place. Remember, don't start a fight with others here, especially you, big head. Northern Stream said, What about me? The grass python glared at him. Northern Stream said, You're too impulsive and easily angered. This is different from a mission. Many of the people training in the outer regions of the 10,000 evil region are disciples of big families and factions. It won't do us any good to offend them. Lin Feng listened. Northern Stream was right. His team had no background. The Great Earth Mang tribe and the Ilua tribe were only medium-sized tribes, similar to the Flaming Mist tribe. Although the Elf tribe was a top-tier tribe, they didn't like killing and wouldn't make a big fuss just because of Northern Stream. As for himself, he was even more innocent. It would be very troublesome to offend a disciple of a big family or faction. We don't look for trouble, but sometimes trouble will find us. Iru pouted. Avoid them if you can, and endure them if you can. They're here to train, and we're here to earn money. Harmony is the most important thing, Northern Stream said. The grass python glared at him. What if they take an inch and want a mile? Beijian said, Take one step back, and you'll be able to see the world. Take 2 steps back, and everything will be calm. Take 3 steps back, and the world will be peaceful. If you can't bear it, you still have to bear it. Remember, there are many experts here that we can't afford to offend. Easy for you to say. Iru pouted. What if you can't hold it in? How can I not hold it in? Northern Stream put his hands behind his back and said proudly, We elves value peace the most. All right, that's all for now. Let's get to work. Lin Feng smiled. How could it be so easy to endure? It was the first time the 4 of them entered the 10,000 evil region. They were all blind as they moved forward. Fortunately, Northern Stream had some understanding of the 10,000 evil region. Otherwise, they would be confused. Our target is the evil beasts. Asun, we're counting on you, Northern Stream said. In the team, Iru's soul perception was the strongest, and it was especially crucial for them to explore this place with dense evil aura. If they were to run headlong into a group of exotic beasts, it would be very troublesome. Although the attack power of the team was very strong, their defense was still insufficient. After a battle, there would often be injuries. Don't worry, Captain. Watch me. Iru's dainty figure was very agile. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she looked around. She casually asked, But Captain, are we not looking for evil things? The grass python in front immediately burst into laughter. Beijian's face twitched. I was just saying. Lin Feng smiled. Iru was naturally joking with Northern Stream. However, Northern Stream had only said it casually. Evil items refer to treasures that were produced by absorbing evil aura. They had the same effect as Chaos Cavern treasures and were rather precious. The stronger the evil aura, the higher the possibility of producing evil items. Therefore, the possibility of producing evil items in the periphery was not high. Even if there was one, there were too many monks and too little gruel in the periphery. It was harder than ascending to the heavens to get one. Apart from evil items, the 10,000 evil territory also had evil crystals, evil ores, and the most ordinary evil hearts. Evil hearts originated from mutated beasts that were called evil beasts. The The stronger the evil beast, the more valuable its evil heart would be. Of course, among the treasures named evil, evil hearts had the lowest average value. At the same time, they were also the easiest to obtain. This was because evil beasts could be found everywhere. Apart from the treasures named evil, the 10,000 evil territory also had heaven and earth fruits, secret realms, forbidden lands, treasures, inheritances, and so on. These were all dependent on fate and opportunity. The chances of finding these treasures in the periphery were very low. Oh, Lin Feng looked into the distance. In the area enveloped by evil aura, he had already sensed the existence of a life. His gaze fell on Bei Jian's group. They were still advancing cautiously in formation. Suddenly, over there, following Yiru's shout, the beautiful figure immediately rushed forward. The grass python excitedly roared and chased after her. The northern stream unhurriedly followed behind the two, the big bow on his back already in his hand. Lin Feng was only half a body's length behind the grass python. His speed was not slow at all. Although the grass python's physique was astonishing, its upper body strength was not the strength of its lower body. Its speed was actually not fast among 3-star experts. It's a mutated beast. Lin Feng saw it at a glance. It was a mutated beast that looked like a deer and a cow. Its limbs were as thick as a cow's, and its nostrils were emitting thick air. The antlers on its head were shining brightly. Its eyes are not blood red. This was the difference between mutated beasts and evil beasts. Evil beasts were mutated beasts that had been corroded by evil aura for many years. They had become violent, evil, and dark. They had lost their minds, and their eyes were blood red with the desire to kill. Evil beasts of the same level were several times stronger than mutated beasts. Yiru's weapon was a mother-son sword. One was short, and the other was long. They could be divided and combined. Together with her ghostly and unpredictable movements, she could assassinate and close-range enemies. At the same time, Yiru had an eye technique and powerful soul power. Although she was a 2-star expert, her overall combat strength was not much weaker than the grass python. Under her stormy attacks, the half-deer, half-cow mutated beast soon howled and fell into a pool of blood. An ordinary 1-star mutated beast was like a piece of paper in front of Yiru. Easy. Yiru put away the mother-son sword. The grass python shook its head. Bei Jian nodded. Continue. Ordinary mutated beasts had little value. Perhaps a 1-star expert would be interested in collecting them, but a 2-star expert would find dissecting them a waste of time. They quickly found the next one, the second one, the third one, the fourth one. As Lin Feng and the other 3 continued to go deeper, the mutated beasts appeared more frequently. Gradually, they entered the real outer region of the Thousand Evil region. They even encountered other teams. Unfortunately, they had to return empty-handed after killing 7 mutated beasts. Until the 8th one. Oh, this mutated beast's aura is a little different from before. Lin Feng had already grasped the aura of mutated beasts, and the difference between them and other species' auras was quite obvious. However, this mutated beast's aura was a little different than the original one. It was indeed difficult to distinguish it with ordinary senses, but he relied on his self-cultivation to sense it. What he sensed was not only its aura, but also its appearance if he wanted to. Its crimson skin was like a blood clot, and its pitch-black spots were bumpy. It was half lying on the ground and seemed to be resting. He could not see its eyes clearly, but the feeling it gave him was completely different from the previous 7 mutated beasts. Its aura was very unique. Evil beast! Lin Feng was shocked. This was the first demonic beast he had encountered in the Thousand Evil region. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1701. Over there. After Lin Feng sensed it, Yiru discovered it. In terms of soul power, Yiru was strong, but not as strong as Lin Feng. Lin Feng's self-cultivation was especially good at sensing, so he could make the most of it. However, Lin Feng didn't plan to replace Yiru. It was better to keep a low profile. Brother Lin, this time you should go and practice. Bei Jian smiled and said, Big Head and Asun are always too fast, so you don't have a chance to practice. Me? Lin Feng was surprised. Go, Brother Lin, we won't fight with you this time. The grass python shook its head and patted its chest. Come, let us see your strength. It will be easier for us to cooperate. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile and look at Beijian. If it's a demonic beast, won't I benefit? According to the rules of the team, if one killed a demonic beast and obtained its heart, he would get 80%. If the whole team killed a demonic beast, they would share it proportionally. Since he was the weakest and a newcomer, he would get 10%. The difference was huge. It's okay. Beijian smiled. If there's such luck, it should be yours, the grass python said casually. Lin Feng smiled and said, then I won't be polite. After he finished speaking, he quickly followed Ru's direction. Like an arrow shooting out, his speed was extremely fast. This kid can't wait. How can it be so coincidental to meet a demonic beast? Beijian smiled. Brother Lin's speed is really fast. Although he's a 2-star expert, he's faster than me. The grass python opened its eyes wide and said to itself, he's a 2-star expert at such a young age. His talent is really good. Beijian's eyes flashed. And he's a human. Humans had always been weak. Lin Feng's physique was far stronger than a normal human's. It was comparable to a demon's. The two of them chatted as they followed the beast. Suddenly, a furious roar sounded in front of them. An astonishingly powerful aura followed the beast's roar like a sudden clap of thunder. Beijian's eyes widened instantly. It can't be. Demonic beast. The grass python saw it from afar and cried out in alarm. A fierce battle was breaking out in mid-air in the distance. A crimson evil beast with bloodshot eyes was entangled with a human being. It was wandering around, waiting for an opportunity to strike. The word pain was written all over Beijian's face. A 2-star demonic beast. What a loss. Northern Stream had a long face, and the grass python beside him gave him a look of disdain. Captain, how much can a 2-star evil heart be worth? Don't you feel embarrassed? Beijian rolled his eyes. What do you know? I have parents and children to take care of. Life is tough, and my pockets are tight. All right, Captain. The grass python felt a headache coming on. It could not do anything to its captain. His strength was close to that of a 4-star expert, but he loved money as much as his life. He would haggle over even a small amount of void crystals. Beijian snorted, and then looked at the battle in midair. Oh, Brother Lin's strength is not bad. The grass python nodded. Although this 2-star demonic beast is not very strong, its abilities are very average in all aspects. It is comparable to the strength of an ordinary 2-star powerhouse. Since Brother Lin can fight with it, it proves that his strength has reached the standard of a 2-star powerhouse. Beijian nodded. He seems to be a bit stronger than before. The grass python said, Brother Lin is good at advancing and retreating. He is not suppressed by the demonic beast's ferocious aura at all. It is rare for a young warrior to fight with such maturity and stability. Beijian nodded. It seems that Asun doesn't need help. Iru had been wandering around, mainly to be able to help Lin Feng in time, just in case. Although Beijian was a money grubber, his strength and eyesight were the best among them. After watching the battle for a short while, he came to a conclusion. Lin Feng would definitely win this battle. There is not much difference in strength, but Brother Lin is calmer and wiser. He is stronger, Beijian said. From a mutated beast to a demonic beast, his strength has changed, but his wisdom has also been destroyed. The grass python said, 1 gain and 1 loss. I really don't know if it is a gain or a loss. In the short term, it is a gain, but in the long term, it will definitely be a loss, Beijian said. Lin Feng's battle was intense, and the two of them chatted happily. Since there was nothing for them to do, they might as well watch the battle quietly. Beijian and the grass python had the most battle experience in the team, and their evaluation of Lin Feng was quite good. Very powerful. The grass python sighed. In time, he will definitely be stronger than you. Beijian looked at the grass python. I will not stop. The grass python's eyes shone brightly as it looked at Beijian. Damn money grubber. I will become a 4-star expert before you. Try it, Big Head. Beijian looked at it provocatively. While they were talking, the battle had already ended. Lin Feng cleanly killed the demonic beast and nodded at Yiru, who was not far away, to express his gratitude. He then took out an evil heart that contained rich dark energy. Not bad, Beijian praised, but his eyes were fixed on the evil heart in Lin Feng's hand. Here, Captain, I will leave it with you. Consider it our team's points. Lin Feng did not care about the small profit of an evil heart. After all, he was a newcomer, and it did not matter if he earned a little less. Moreover, he did not come here to earn space crystals. How can you do that? Before Northern Stream could say anything, the grass python had already shouted, "A man of his word is a man of his word. Am I right, Captain?" Ah, Beijian was startled, and the corner of his mouth twitched as he nodded. Yes, yes. Looking at his bitter expression, Yiru burst out laughing. The grass python looked at him with disdain. Look at you, Captain. Don't make a fool of yourself in front of Brother Lin. Scram! Beijian's face turned red, and he kicked the grass python. In an instant, the two were in a mess, and Yiru was laughing so hard that she was rolling back and forth. Looking at the two fooling around, Lin Feng also smiled. This team was different from any team he had been in before. It was quite fun. After a battle, everyone was clearly in the zone. As they ventured deeper into the 10,000 evil realm, they began to encounter more demonic beasts. Most of them were 2-star demonic beasts, and 3-star demonic beasts were rare. As for 1-star demonic beasts, they were almost non-existent. Generally speaking, demonic beasts that had mutated into demonic beasts would develop 2-star demonic hearts. Those that had absorbed too much demonic energy but were unable to transform would all die. The deeper they went, the more dangerous it was. Gradually, there was no longer just one demonic beast, but many demonic beasts in groups of 2 or 3. During this time, they also encountered many teams. The friendly ones would greet each other, and the unfriendly ones would just brush past them. Generally speaking, if you did not provoke others, others would not provoke you. No one had the time to provoke others. Oh, while everyone was looking for new prey, Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1702. A horde of demonic beasts. They had encountered many demonic beasts before, but only 3 at most, and all 3 were 2-star demonic beasts. In the periphery of the great evil realm, more than 90% of the demonic beasts encountered were 2-star, and less than 10% were 3-star. But this time, 2 3-star demonic beasts, and 6 2-star demonic beasts. Lin Feng was shocked. Such a horde of demonic beasts was rarely seen in the periphery of the great evil realm. Generally speaking, it was a family of beasts. Many demonic beasts had forgotten the concept of community after transforming into demonic beasts, but they would not lose their bloodline. This was something that flowed in their blood, an innate instinct. Previously, when they encountered 2 or 3 demonic beasts together, it was often the same. It was very dangerous. Lin Feng quickly judged the strength of his team and the demonic beast horde. His team was led by Northern Stream and Grass Python, so it was not a problem for them to fight 2 3-star demonic beasts one-on-one. Including Yiru, with her strength, she might not be able to win against a 3-star demonic beast, but her restraining ability was very strong, so it was not a problem for her to restrain a 3-star demonic beast. But the problem was, in addition to 2 3-star demonic beasts, there were 6 2-star demonic beasts in this horde. 4 against 8, the difference in numbers was double. They are evenly matched. No, maybe our team's strength is slightly weaker. After careful analysis, Lin Feng came to a conclusion. After these days of fighting, he had a very clear understanding of his team's strength. Although Northern Stream and Grass Python were 3-star powerhouses, they each had their strengths and weaknesses. Although they complemented each other in some aspects, there was one thing that both of them had in common: endurance. Northern Stream's close combat ability was poor, and Grass Python's defense was insufficient. Both of them could not last long. Yiru was the one who could really fight a protracted battle, but after all, she was only a 2-star powerhouse. Even if they could win, the team would inevitably suffer heavy losses, and there might even be casualties. 8 demonic beasts? Iru's voice was filled with surprise. She had obviously found out. So many? Northern Stream was also surprised. Grass Python's fighting spirit was strong. Maybe 2 or 3 of them will transform into demonic beasts. It was a good harvest to find 2 or 3 demonic beasts at once. Sometimes, they could not find one for several days. At least one, at most 2 or 3. Beijian's eyes lit up. They had come to the 10,000 evil realm to earn money. The more evil beasts they killed, the more they would earn. Although the value of an evil heart was not as high as an evil item or an evil crystal, it was not low either. The 3 of them were getting ready to go ahead and harvest their prey. They couldn't contain their excitement. After all, they hadn't found any demonic beasts for several days in a row. So, how could they not be happy when they suddenly found so many demonic beasts? Don't go, Lin Feng shouted in a low voice, forcefully stopping the Northern Stream trio. What's wrong, Brother Lin? Beijian asked. Iru and the grass python also turned their heads to look. Because Lin Feng rarely spoke or expressed his opinions, everyone was puzzled by his abnormal behavior. Iru especially looked at Lin Feng with a pair of beautiful eyes that seemed to contain some hidden meaning. The first 8 are all demonic beasts, Lin Feng said. He couldn't hide it any longer. After all, this was a matter of great importance. Beijian and the grass python were stunned for a moment and looked at each other. They didn't know how Lin Feng knew. If all 8 of them are demonic beasts, wouldn't we be able to earn more? The grass python suddenly asked. That's right. Northern Stream replied reflexively. Lin Feng shook his head and said, No, among these 8 demonic beasts, 2 or 3-star demonic beasts. Bang! This time, Beijian and the grass python understood and stared at Lin Feng with wide eyes. On the other hand, Iru's beautiful eyes flickered. Her beautiful face didn't seem too surprised. She had long suspected Lin Feng. Iru was proficient in the Tao of Souls, so she had already sensed that something was wrong with Lin Feng. She could clearly sense the Northern Stream and the grass python, but she couldn't sense Lin Feng, who was weaker than her. There were only 2 possibilities. One was that Lin Feng had a top-grade soul-type treasure, and the other was that Lin Feng's attainments in the Tao of Souls were stronger than hers. Top-grade soul treasures were very rare, so Iru had always suspected that this human youth, whose body was comparable to the demon races, had astonishing attainments in the Tao of Souls. He might even be stronger than her. How many chakras have you opened in heaven cultivation? Iru suddenly asked. The 4th chakra. Seeing Iru's question, Lin Feng didn't hide it and answered truthfully. Iru's beautiful face revealed a look of surprise. She covered her mouth in shock and said, Amazing! Ah Sun, you seem to have opened the 3rd chakra, right? Beijian looked deeply at Lin Feng as if this was the first time he had seen him. Iru nodded. So, not only can you tell the difference between mutated beasts and evil beasts, but you can even tell the strength of evil beasts? Iru pursed her lips and looked at Lin Feng. She paused for a moment before asking, You could sense it before? Lin Feng nodded. You can sense things faster and farther than me? Although Iru already knew the answer, she still asked. Lin Feng didn't answer. There was no need to answer this question. Lin Feng changed the topic and said to the 3 of them, With the strength of the 4 of us, it will be difficult for us to defeat this group of demonic beasts. The probability of success is less than 50%. At this point, the 3 of them no longer had any doubts. Even Iru was no longer in a comparison. She carefully thought about Lin Feng's words and analyzed the strength of the 2 sides. Soon she frowned. The air was heavy and suffocating. If what Brother Lin said is true, we won't be able to defeat this group of demonic beasts. Beijian looked serious. If even that money grubber says so, then it must be true, the grass python said. Screw you. Beijian curled his lips and said, We are here for money, not life. Although the 8 demonic beasts are worth a lot, we need to be alive to enjoy the money. Let's go. It's a pity to leave just like that, the grass python muttered. Yeah, aren't we going to try, Captain? Iru asked. Beijian rolled his eyes at the 2 of them and said, There are many demonic beasts in the innumerable evil regions. If we have the time, we won't be able to kill 8 of them. Don't be greedy and put yourself in a situation where you can't recover. The grass python and Eru nodded. Although the team often had different opinions, they still trusted Captain Beijian. Because he was the leader, their team hadn't had any problems for so many years. It wasn't necessarily a bad thing to be cautious. Actually, it's not impossible, Lin Feng suddenly said. Oh, what do you mean? Beijian asked curiously. Even a grass python and Eru looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng's position in their hearts had risen. We can do this. Lin Feng immediately voiced his idea. The 3 of them kept nodding. They thought about it and discussed it again. Soon, they came to a decision. Let's do as Brother Lin says. For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1703. In the 10,000 Evil Realm, a wild place filled with evil energy. 8 demonic beasts were resting on the grassland. As Lin Feng had seen, these 8 demonic beasts looked very similar. They had a silver-white unicorn horn, tiger-shaped stripes, furry foxtails, pitch-black venomous claws, and the most eye-catching thing was undoubtedly their pupils. All of them were blood red. 2 of the 8 unicorn demonic beasts were particularly tall and majestic. Their unicorn horns were also larger and sharper than the other 6 unicorn demonic beasts. It was as if they could pierce through the sky, majestic and awe-inspiring. Suddenly, the void shook violently, and the space was turbulent. A giant axe fell from the sky with a loud bang. It was a martial artist whose whole body was full of muscles. His upper body was as if cast in iron, and his giant arms were as thick as elephant legs, exerting his strength to the limit. His appearance was like an invincible god of war, and his aura skyrocketed. Grass Python, with his 3-star strength, he wasn't the slightest bit weaker than the 2 3-star single-horned evil beasts. Moreover, his sudden arrival had caused his imposing aura to erupt to the extreme. However, the unicorn demonic beasts were obviously not to be trifled with, especially the 2 3-star unicorn demonic beasts. They instantly roared, revealing their loftiness. However, at this time, 2 sword lights quickly shot from the left and right. Chi. The penetrating power was extremely strong. Like the grass python, its target was the 2 3-star unicorn demonic beasts. The reaction of the 2 3-star unicorn demonic beasts could not be described as slow. Although they were caught unprepared by the grass python, they still maintained their instinctive vigilance and attacked the 2 sword lights. But at this time, Chi, as fast as the speed of light, a dull, piercing sound was heard as it disappeared into the spatial fault. A transparent arrow shot out like a ghost. It contained amazing archery skills and energy, condensing strength and speed to the most perfect state. Why? Between life and death, the instinctive reaction of the 3-star unicorn demonic beasts made them dodge. The arrow was very fast, but no matter how fast it was, there was still a distance. Although the 3-star unicorn demonic beasts were caught unprepared by the continuous attacks, their foundation was still there. Strange beasts were born with an extremely strong sense of danger. It was a completely instinctive reaction that allowed the 3-star unicorn demonic beasts to dodge the perfect arrow. However, the space froze in an instant. Snap! The huge figure of this 3-star, single-horned evil beast paused for a moment. It was too late for it to struggle and resist. The arrow pierced through its body and exploded inside its body with a loud bang. Its head and body were blown to pieces. High-grade, true meaning of space, spatial seal. Roar! The other 3-star, single-horned evil beast was furious and frightened. It fiercely turned its head to attack. However, at this time, another arrow was shot out. It wanted to repeat the previous scene, but how could the 3-star, single-horned evil beast be so easily subdued? It quickly dodged and counterattacked, roaring violently. I can't lock it down. Lin Feng had already used all of his strength, but the spatial seal was instantly broken free. In the face of such an opponent, although the space lock was effective, it was not obvious. No matter how fast the Northern Stream's arrow was, it could only graze the 3-star unicorn evil beast. At this time, the grass python's attack had already bombarded the group of 2-star demonic beasts. These 6 2-star demonic beasts didn't have the protection of the 2 3-star single-horned demonic beasts. Therefore, they suffered a big loss in the first moment of the fight. The grass pythons went all out and naturally wouldn't let go of this great opportunity. They attacked with all their might and quickly killed 2 of the demonic beasts. Swish! Iru's mother-son double swords attacked again and rushed straight to the only 3-star single-horned demonic beast, restraining it. Whoosh! 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 One by one, the arrows pierced through the air, and one by one, the 2-star one-horned evil beasts were killed. For the elves who were proficient in archery, it was too easy. Although the Northern Stream was greedy, his strength was first class. His ability to grasp opportunities was also very strong. Since he couldn't kill the 3-star single-horned demonic beasts, he turned to deal with the 2-star single-horned demonic beasts. The group of single-horned demonic beasts that had died first fell into a big disadvantage at the beginning. As the 2-star single-horned demonic beasts were killed one by one, they instantly became a lone army. No matter how strong they were, they couldn't resist the siege of Lin Feng and the other 3. In the end, they were killed miserably. Lin Feng and the other 3 gathered around, looked at each other, and suddenly laughed. A perfect battle. No one was injured. In just a few hundred seconds, all 8 single-horned demonic beasts were killed. Their strength and tactics were seamless. Good job. The Northern Stream gave Lin Feng a thumbs up and praised. The timing of the space lock is excellent. Plus, the enemy's information and tactical arrangement before the battle. You deserve to be the first to attack. Oh, how much is the first credit, Captain? The grass python laughed heartily and put the giant axe back on its back. Well, the corner of the Northern Stream's mouth twitched. That's that. Didn't we agree before that Brother Lin will only get 10%? Anyway, Brother Lin doesn't lack money, right? Lin Feng smiled. It's okay. I've never seen such a shameless captain. The grass python cast a disdainful look. I'll give 5% to Lin Feng. Iru, who was floating in the air, smiled. I'll also give 5%. The grass python said. The Northern Stream smiled bitterly. You two are deliberately embarrassing me. Originally, the team's distribution ratio was 4% for Northern Stream, 3 for grass python, 2 for Iru, and 1 for Lin Feng. But now, it was 4% for Northern Stream, 2, 5 for grass python, 1, 5 for Iru, and 2 for Lin Feng. It was a bit strange. Actually, you don't have to do this. I'm really fine. Lin Feng said. He didn't want the team to be unhappy because of the uneven distribution. We're different from the captain. We should take what we're responsible for. Iru looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng, your perception is stronger than mine. In the future, you'll be responsible for scouting the enemy. You should take half of my share. The grass python laughed. Now that Brother Lin is here, I can focus on attacking and killing. It's so satisfying. I can take this 5% without any qualms. Speaking of which, Captain, don't you have anything to say? The grass python looked at the Northern Stream and said with disdain, Stupid money grubber, doesn't your conscience hurt? All right, all of you will maintain the original distribution ratio. Lin Feng will get an extra 10% in the future. This 10%, I will pay for it. Northern Stream gritted his teeth, as if he had just cut off a piece of his flesh. Oh, Iru and the grass python looked at each other. You should have done this a long time ago. Iru turned around and shrugged. That's right. You made us act for so long. The grass python also turned around to retrieve the evil heart. Beijian was left dumbfounded. You two. Northern Stream pointed at Iru and the grass python. After holding back for a long time, his face suddenly turned red. You two bastards, you even dare to scheme against your captain. How dare you? Smelly Mishuan, big head, stop right there. Watch how I teach you all a lesson. The furious Northern Stream immediately chased after him. Looking at the 3 of them in a mess, Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. For the latest novel updates, please visit Chapter 1704. Jokes aside, allocations are allocations. Although Northern Stream was a money grubber, he wasn't a petty person. After giving up 10%, he and the grass python would each get 30%, while Lin Feng and Yi Ru would each get 20%. The allocation was very reasonable. Basically, Northern Stream and the grass python contributed about the same amount. Previously, the extra 10% was because the grass python had to shoulder the responsibility of defending, so its efficiency in killing demonic beasts wasn't as high as Northern Stream's. But now, Lin Feng's arrival had completely liberated the grass python. He had even killed more demonic beasts than Northern Stream. This allocation was very reasonable, so no one had any objections. Only Northern Stream had a long face. He had been nagging for the past few days, as if a piece of his flesh had been dug out. The three people who knew his character didn't care. Northern Stream was a bit of a money grubber, but he wasn't a bad person. He was kind-hearted and loyal to his brothers, who didn't have flaws. After this battle, Lin Feng was given full authority to scout the depths. After all, compared to Yi Ru, Lin Feng's scouting range was much wider, and his knowledge was more detailed and comprehensive. Not only could he distinguish between evil beasts and exotic beasts, he was also very clear about their strengths. This saved the team a lot of time. With Lin Feng scouting the way, everyone's movements in the Thousand Evil territory became as smooth as flat ground. They gained something every day, and the team's cooperation became more and more skillful. During this period, they also encountered other groups of demonic beasts, but none of them could compare to the previous one. In the constant battles, Lin Feng's strength was also steadily increasing. Their harvest was also very rich. After all, the Thousand Evil territory was one of the 18 heavenly danger zones. As long as one could survive here, their strength would increase. In the periphery, everyone stayed for a few months. They walked and stopped, but they didn't feel tired. After all, they didn't encounter any real danger, and they killed more and more demonic beasts. Boom! Chi! Pong! In a place shrouded in demonic energy, Lin Feng and the other three besieged 2 3-star demonic beasts. The corpses on the ground were piled up like a mountain. Under the besiegement, the 2 3-star demonic beasts were in imminent danger and fell into a pool of blood. Easy. Simple. Everyone rubbed their hands and smiled brightly. With their skillful and tacit cooperation, dealing with the demonic beasts was a piece of cake. There were 12 demonic beasts in this wave, but the 4 of them still managed to defeat them without shedding a drop of blood. Not a single one of them was injured. After the battle ended, the grass python retrieved the evil heart. Yi Ru was on alert. The two had already formed a tacit understanding. With Yi Ru's personality, she didn't even want to be stained with blood, let alone retrieve the evil heart. As for Lin Feng, he would often think about it carefully after the battle and summarize it. Everyone supported him. After all, rookies needed room to grow and improve. This was a good thing for him, and it was the same for the team. As Lin Feng's strength increased, the team's strength also increased steadily. But this time, Lin Feng was a little different. What are you thinking about, Brother Lin? Northern Stream walked over. Have you noticed anything different here, Captain? Lin Feng asked. What's the difference? Bei Jian asked curiously. The frequency of demonic beasts appearing here is relatively high. Lin Feng said. Northern Stream pondered for a while and said, It seems so, but it shouldn't be a big deal. Maybe it's because there are fewer experts here, so the frequency of demonic beasts appearing is higher. Or maybe we're lucky. There are more demonic beasts gathering in this area. Moreover, we're close to the inner area of the Thousand Evil realm, so the demonic aura is strong. Perhaps. Lin Feng's gaze swept across the surroundings with some reservations. He felt that something was amiss. Continue exploring. As if confirming Lin Feng's guess, the frequency of them bumping into demonic beasts was increasing. Even the grass python, which had always been careless, could feel it. It waved its big axe and shouted in satisfaction. These days, he was having a great time killing demonic beasts. Brother Lin, what did you sense? Northern Stream asked. A very dense demonic aura and a lot of demonic beasts. Lin Feng said, "There's also an indescribable feeling. Demonic beasts." Northern Stream's eyes lit up. "Stupid money grubber, you're daydreaming again." Grass Python's face was full of disdain. Eru covered her mouth and laughed. "How can demonic beasts be so easy to find in the outer area? Captain, it's not our turn. This should be a wind gap that leads directly to the inner area of the Thousand Evil Realm. That's why the demonic aura is so dense, because it comes from the inner area. Because of the dense demonic aura, there are a lot of demonic beasts here." Lin Feng nodded. Eru's guess was the most reliable. The Thousand Evil Realm was very big, and there was more than one passage to the inner area of the Thousand Evil Realm. The major forces already knew of 3, and there were countless more that they hadn't told the public. These passages were called wind gaps. Finding wind gaps was actually not very useful. After all, wind gaps were not treasures. If a weak martial artist entered the inner area of the Thousand Evil Realm through wind gaps, it would be like walking into a road of death. As for strong martial artists, any wind gap was the same. All right, Northern Stream's face was full of disappointment. "Wind gaps, huh?" Lin Feng looked around. The Thousand Evil Realm did not have a fixed direction. Because the Origin Awakening continent was changing every moment, the entire terrain was changing. In addition, the Thousand Evil Realm was covered in demonic aura, making it even harder to tell the direction. Therefore, even if they walked in the same direction every time, they might not be able to find their original path. "Young master, this place is a little strange." The one who spoke was an old man with a white beard. His eyes had a unique charm, and there was a 4-star medal on his chest. The one he called Young Master was an ugly young man with 2 black rabbit ears. His face was as thin as a knife, and he was dressed in expensive battle armor and boots. Behind him was a group of guards with black rabbit ears. Black Ears Clan Yuan. This was a top-notch clan with excellent talent for darkness and sensitive hearing. "What's strange?" Black Ears Clan's Yuan asked. The 4-star old man with a white beard said, "The demonic aura here is much stronger than in other areas. It should be a wind gap." "What's strange about a wind gap?" Black Ears Clan's Yuan said indifferently. The 4-star old man with a white beard said, "A wind gap is not strange, but a wind gap that has not been excavated is different." Sweeping his gaze, the 4-star old man with a white beard said, "As far as I know, none of the wind gaps in the Thousand Evil Realm are like this." Black Ears Clan's Yuan became interested. "There are still wind gaps in the Thousand Evil Realm that have not been excavated?" The 4-star old man with a white beard said, "Of course there are. Every natural danger zone has one. The Origin Awakening continent is expanding every moment. As the area changes, some wind gaps that were originally sealed will be exposed. These are the opportunities of individuals. From this, it seems that Young Master's opportunities are quite good. Congratulations, Young Master." Black Ears Clan's Yuan narrowed his eyes and nodded with a smile. "My opportunities are naturally good." "That's right. Is there anything special about unexcavated wind gaps?" For the latest novel updates, please visit the website. Chapter 1705. There are too many special things. The white-bearded old man's eyes lit up. Everyone knows that the wind gap is connected to the inner and outer parts of the 10,000 Evil Realm. Therefore, since this wind gap has not been exposed, it is very likely that the inner part of the 10,000 Evil Realm has not been explored yet. The inner part. The Black Ear Clan's Yuan Kuang's eyes lit up. He knew how valuable the inner part of the wind gap was. Not to mention other things, there must be a lot of evil crystals, evil ores, fruits of heaven and earth, and even evil creatures. This was just the tip of the iceberg. It was hard to estimate how many treasures there would be in the unexplored area. Not only the inner part of the 10,000 Evil Realm, but even the outer part of the wind gap has not been explored yet. The white-bearded old man smiled. "Congratulations, Young Master. This time, you will definitely make a lot of money." "Haha, good. Well said." The Black Ear Clan's Yuan Kuang was very happy. Suddenly, his ears twitched, and his face changed slightly. "There are sounds of fighting." The white-bearded old man frowned. Although his sensing ability was strong, It was not as good as the Black Ear Clan's talent. The young master could not have heard wrongly. If there were sounds of fighting, it meant that there were other warriors here who might have also found the wind gap. Let's go and see. The Black Ear Clan's Yuan Kuang's eyes were sharp as he rushed forward. Not far away, Lin Feng and the others were fighting fiercely with a group of evil beasts. The ground was covered in blood. The evil beasts were all killed. The eyes of Lin Feng and the others lit up because they found a bump in the shape of a steamed bun. It was right behind this group of evil beasts. It was pitch black with some mottled impurities, but it contained powerful energy. This was not an ordinary bump, but a kind of were unique to the 10,000 evil realm. Evil ore. It was an ore vein that contained evil energy. Although it looked like a small steamed bun, the ore vein was buried underground. No one knew how long and deep in ore vein was underground. We are rich, we are rich. Beijian kept muttering. His eyes were already in the shape of a dollar, and he could not help but get closer to the ore vein. Be careful, Captain. As usual the next day, the mother-son pair of swords flew out and killed a severely injured demonic beast behind the northern stream. On the other side, the grass python swung its axe like a beam of light and laughed heartily. So this is an evil ore. Lin Feng suddenly understood. Even though he had noticed this long ago, he would not lose his composure like Beijian. Moreover, he could sense that there were far more than what was in front of him. Qi, Lin Feng's crimson sun, strives for edge as he slaughtered the demonic beasts in front of him. His gaze fell into the depths of the abyss. There were waves of evil qi that were much stronger than the evil or vein. This wind gap is not simple. Having wandered around here for the past few days, Lin Feng was now completely sure of his suspicions. How could there be an evil mineral vein in a wind gap that had been excavated a long time ago? Moreover, it was exposed on the surface. Not to mention, he could sense that there were even bigger, evil mineral veins and evil crystals ahead. From the energy of his aura, he could be sure. Lin Feng's gaze fell on a place not far away from him. He could not help but laugh. Captain Beijian was now like a groundhog, excitedly digging into the ground and digging up the evil mineral vein with his bare hands. He was a 3-star martial artist with strength close to 4-star, but now he was acting like a child. It was very interesting. Captain is really... Lin Feng was also amused. If he knew that there was an even bigger, evil mineral vein ahead, would he faint from excitement? After cleaning up the battlefield, Lin Feng and the grass python took out the evil heart and walked towards Beijian, and as usual the next day. At this moment, both of them were full of smiles and could not hide their excitement. They had come here to earn money. Although there were many evil hearts, they were not worth much. What they were digging up now was an evil ore. It was much more valuable than an evil heart. Haha, we're rich. Beijian kept digging and putting money into his pocket. For a martial artist who loved money as much as his life, what could be better than this? Captain, you should be more reserved. Look at you. You're such a country bumpkin. The grass python teased. What kind of country bumpkin can have so much money? I'm willing to be a country bumpkin. Beijian didn't even turn his head back as he eagerly dug out the evil ores. Irawan also revealed a smile on her face. Under her control, the mother and son swords quickly harvested the evil ores. Their efficiency was much faster than Beijian's. All right, Captain, move aside. I'll do it. The grass python lifted its giant axe and shook its head. No. Beijian was so scared that his face turned green. He said, what if you break the evil ore with your axe? It won't break. Lin Feng smiled and said, there aren't many mines below. Let the grass python do it, Captain. It will save a lot of time. Not many? Beijian was stunned. He wanted to cry, but had no tears. It can't be. As usual the next day's beautiful eyes glanced over in surprise. Lin Feng, you can even sense the evil ore? Lin Feng nodded. There are only a few evil ores here. Beijian pouted. It was as if someone had splashed a bucket of cold water on him. His head drooped. Sigh. I knew that I wouldn't be so lucky. Everyone couldn't help but laugh at his dispirited appearance. As usual the next day's smile deepened. It's good enough that we managed to get some good stuff. Yeah. Lin Feng smiled and looked at Beijian. How about this, Captain? I'll give you all of these evil ores. We'll split the rest among the three of us. What do you think? Give it all to me? Really? Northern Stream's eyes lit up. As usual, the next day's surprise deepened. She looked at Lin Feng with her beautiful eyes and smiled sweetly. Yeah, Captain. Didn't you always say that you have elders and children to take care of? I'll give you all of these evil ores, and we'll look for other ores. Give them all to you? Look at you, the grass python said disdainfully. You have to keep your word. Beijian's eyes widened. He stared at everyone like a living dragon. Everyone chuckled. The grass python was much faster than the northern stream. It didn't take long for them to dig out all the evil ores. The northern stream couldn't stop smiling after getting all the evil ores. He kept saying, thank you, everyone. You're welcome, Captain. As usual, the next day's smile deepened. How do we end up with a greedy captain like you? The grass python shook its head. Lin Feng smiled and looked at everyone. Let's go. Where are we going? The grass python asked curiously. As usual, the next day's smile deepened. Stupid, we're going to dig out other evil ores. What? The grass python was stunned. As usual, the next day's smile deepened. She pointed at Lin Feng and said, ask Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled and looked at the dumbfounded Captain Beijian. Captain, these are all yours. You won't get a share later. No, no share. Beijian muttered to himself. Suddenly, his eyes widened. There are more evil ores? Yes, there are more. Lin Feng smiled and walked forward. How many? Beijian asked. 100 times more than this. Lin Feng's voice sounded. As usual, the next day's giggles and the grass python's laughter echoed. Beijian's hands trembled and the evil ores in his hands fell to the ground. Damn, you bastards, wait for me. Chapter 1706. It was another evil or vein. It was pitch black with some impurities. This evil or vein was not as small as a steamed bun, but a small fortress. It looked like a golden grain under the sun. Looking at it from the outside, it was already very shocking. They didn't know how much it extended underground. Wow! The grass python raised its arms and shouted excitedly. As usual the next day, it winked at Lin Feng with a smile and gave him a thumbs up. Lin Feng smiled back. Beside the three of them, the captain, Beijian, opened his eyes wide and murmured, so many evil ores, so many. Don't look, Captain. You don't have a share. The grass python patted Beijian's shoulder and pulled out the giant axe on its back. It shouted, Aso, and move aside. I'll do it. Then it jumped into the air. The giant axe made a clanging sound, shaking the whole space. Lin Feng looked at it with a smile. Suddenly, his heart trembled, and a light flashed in his eyes. Aura detection. What a strong soul aura. Asun is even stronger. Lin Feng was shocked. He felt that he was being spied on by someone at this time. It was different from normal because of the existence of the evil ores in the wind gap. Come and see. There's so many offing. As usual the next day, it waved its hand in front of him. At this time, the grass python was mining, and the evil ores were already exposed on the ground. There were 5 to 6 times more evil ores than the previous pile. And this was not all. Coming. Lin Feng replied with a smile and walked over. Since the other party didn't take any further action, he couldn't do anything. He could only be cautious and bide his time. Not far away, the group of Black Ears was spying on them. The young master of the Black Ears clan, Yuan Xian, and his servant, Old White, led a group of Black Ears elites. If they aren't stupid, I believe they already know the secret of the wind gap, Old White said in a low voice. Yuan Xian's eyes turned sharp. He said indifferently, how strong are they? Old White said, 4 2-star to 3-star experts. Yuan Zhen chuckled. Kill them directly? Elder Bai shook his head. I don't know anything about the other party. Although the Black Ears clan was strong and was one of the top clans in the Origin Awakened continent, and Yuan Xian was the clan's young master, there was more than one young master in the Black Ears clan. Yuan Xian's status was only slightly higher than the other clansmen, but it was far from enough to affect the Black Ears clan. Even though they were all top-tier races, there were still differences. The black ear race was just one of the weaker ones among the top-tier races. They couldn't compare to top-tier races like the Holy Light race or the Dwarf race. They couldn't even compare to the 5 major races. Of course, compared to the Yuan clan, the Matawa clan, and other superior clans, the Black Ear clan was much stronger. They didn't even care about a mid-level clan like the Flame Mist clan. The Great Elder of the Flaming Mist clan was the strongest in the clan, but he was only a 4-star expert. Even a servant of the Black Ears clan had a 4-star strength. The difference was too obvious. Should we go and check it out? Yuan Wei asked. Elder Bai frowned. If the other party finds out that this is an unexplored opportunity, doing this will only alert the enemy. Old Bai's eyes flickered as he said in a deep voice, right now, there are only 2 options. Either we take it all for ourselves, or we split it. Split? Yuan Kuang frowned. He had long since regarded this unexplored opportunity as his exclusive property. How could he allow others to encroach on it? No way. Yuan Wei immediately rejected the idea, his eyes sharp. This is a great opportunity for my clan to rise. If I can get all the treasures in this opportunity, I'll definitely enter the top 10 of the clan's young master ranking. Elder Bai nodded. As Yuan Wei's servant, he naturally knew this. In that case, why don't we compromise? Elder Bai's eyes flashed. Oh, how do we compromise? Yuan Wei asked. The corners of Elder Bai's mouth curled up. We'll go wherever they go to find the treasures. Anyone who sees it will get a share. Everyone will fight over it based on their strength. Won't they take some of it? Yuan Wei was very unhappy. Elder Bai shook his head. Young master, don't worry. This isn't a real fight. If the other party has a strong backer, we can avoid it and use the Black Ear clan's name. Even 8 major powers will give us face. Yuan Wei nodded. Elder Bai then smiled coldly. But if the other party is afraid of us and retreats, then... Elder Bai made a throat-slitting gesture, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Yuan Wei pondered for a moment and said, But if the other party neither reveals their backer nor retreats, what should we do? Then we can only act according to the circumstances. Elder Bai said in a deep voice, Those who can enter this place are generally not ordinary people. If we can avoid provoking them, we won't provoke them. But even if we openly fight for the evil or vain, it won't matter. We have more people. Elder Bai chuckled and glanced at the Black Ear clan's elites. There were more than 10 of them. If they didn't fight for the evil or vain, it would depend on who had more people. Let's do it. Yuan Wei pondered for a moment and made a decision. Although he liked to kill all the competitors cleanly, it was undeniable that Elder Bai's method was the safest and most prudent. His father had asked Elder Bai to follow him for a reason. On the other side, Lin Feng and the other 2 had already dug out all the evil or veins. If the first one was only the size of a steam bun, this one was almost the size of a watermelon. It was 10 times more than the first one. Everyone in the team was beaming with joy, except for Captain Bai Jian. Bai Jian walked over with a smile and said, So many. Yes, Captain, it's so fun. The grass python laughed. As usual the next day, she blinked her big watery eyes and said to Bai Jian with a faint smile, Let's divide it equally. Each of us got twice as much as the previous one. Bai Jian's face suddenly froze and twitched slightly. As long as you are happy. We are very happy. The grass python opened its big eyes and looked at Bai Jian. Aren't you happy, Captain? As soon as he finished speaking, even Lin Feng could not help but laugh. As usual the next day, the grass python had a rough appearance. However, it didn't lose to Bai Jian at all. Bai Jian was so angry that he wanted to cry, but had no tears. His face turned slightly red, and he couldn't say anything. Of course the captain is happy. Have you forgotten how happy he was when he got it? As usual the next day, he covered his mouth and laughed. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. The grass python imitated Bai Jian's expression. Everyone was laughing from ear to ear. Right now, Northern Jian was filled with regret. He really wanted to slap himself twice. How could he have made such a stupid decision? Now that he thought about it, he wasn't just stupid, he was stupid to the core. Lin Feng smiled. Let's go to the next place, Lin Feng said to everyone. Let's go. The grass python laughed. Okay. As usual the next day, everyone smiled and replied. Beijian suddenly raised his head and asked in shock, "Where are we going?" "Of course we're going to dig out a new evil or vein." "Captain, you idiot!" The grass python turned around and pouted. Chapter 17:07. The third evil or vein. When Northern Stream saw the mountain-like evil or vein, he almost fainted on the ground. Oh my God, was this an evil or vein? It was a mountain. Compared to the evil or vein he had obtained before, it was like comparing a fish eye to a pearl. It was worlds apart. Evil ores, evil ores. Northern Stream mumbled to himself. At this moment, he was like a walking corpse. His hands trembled as he tried to touch the oars, but he didn't dare to. Lin Feng and the other two looked at each other. For a money grubber, what could be more painful than this moment? Is it about time? Lin Feng looked at the grass python, and, as usual the next day. Yes. The two nodded. They could not bear to see Beijian like this. They were not so bad. They were just joking with their captain. If they really did that, their friendship would be gone. Although space crystals were precious, they were not more precious than their friends. However, joking around sometimes could improve their relationship. "Captain? Captain, you money grubber!" Everyone shouted. The Northern Stream was startled and came back to his senses. His eyes were filled with shock. Go get it, Captain. We were just joking with you." Lin Feng smiled. "Go, money grubber. Look at you. You are so embarrassing." The grass python shook his head in disdain. "Yes, Captain. You were so ugly." As usual the next day, covered her mouth and laughed. "You don't look like the elegant and beautiful elf at all." Beijian was shocked. He looked at the three of them and asked, "What did you say?" "We were just playing with you." "Captain, don't mind us." Lin Feng apologized. I don't mind. I don't mind at all." Beijian laughed. This time, he heard it clearly. He looked at the three of them in disbelief. "You really don't mind? Why would we mind? You money grubber. Do you think everyone is like you?" The grass python looked at him with disdain. "Go ahead, Captain." As usual the next day, said with a smile. Beijian's eyes lit up when he heard that. He jumped up and said, thank you, everyone. I won't do that again." Beijian's eyes were filled with tears. He was extremely touched. As soon as he finished speaking, he instantly flashed forward like a gust of wind, and he pounced towards the evil or vein that was like a mountain, causing Lin Feng and the others to burst into laughter. "Do you think his personality will change?" The grass python said disdainfully. "It'd be weird if he changed it." Irulian rolled her eyes. Lin Feng smiled and said, "Everyone has different personalities and weaknesses. Captain is actually not bad." What he said was the truth. Other than being a bit of a money grubber, Captain Beijian did not have any other flaws. The elves were a race that worshipped nature and beauty. They were generally very kind and simple. Mine. Haha, it's all mine." Northern Stream, who was freed from his restraints, was like a ferocious tiger that had just escaped from its cage. He let out a carefree laugh. His hands were no longer able to hold the mountain-like evil oars, and he wished he could swallow the entire evil oars whole. The grass python continued to excavate the evil or vein. This was what he was good at. As usual the next day, he walked around with a smile on his face. Lin Feng stood where he was and did not participate. His job was to be alert and guard. Although the evil or vein here was huge, it was far from the largest. They had stumbled into this area in a daze. This time, they would definitely make a lot of money. However, Lin Feng did not care much about this. "Wind gap," Lin Feng said softly. He looked around and saw that the evil aura was very dense. It was much denser than the outer area of the land of evil. There was no doubt that this was a wind gap. From what he saw, it was a new wind gap. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many evil or veins. 1 or 2 evil or veins might be possible, but he sensed that there were at least 10 of them. More than 10 evil or veins. Moreover, there were even more powerful ones than the evil or veins. Evil crystal veins. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Evil crystals were the sublimation of evil ores. Evil ores usually contained some impurities, but evil crystals were different. They were 100% flawless, without any impurities. They were 100 times more valuable than evil ores. If this is a new wind gap, Lin Feng's eyes flickered. His eyes fell on the distance covered by the dense, evil aura. It was deep and mysterious. With his senses, he knew the exact location of the wind gap. Through the wind gap was the inner area of the land of evil. The inner area and the outer area were two completely different worlds. If the outer area has not been discovered, then the inner area has most likely not been discovered. Lin Feng's heart was beating fast. He knew that this was an opportunity. A great opportunity. The value of the treasures in the inner area could not be compared with those in the outer area. Outside, the mountainous evil or vein was already very valuable. But inside, even a mountainous evil crystal vein was only the tip of the iceberg. There were too many treasures. There were all kinds of possibilities. But on the other hand, it was also very dangerous. The evil beasts in the inner area were at least 3-star or 4-star. With the strength of his team, entering was basically no different from suicide. The evil beasts were full of murderous aura. There was nothing but killing. The two sides were in a dilemma. Just as Lin Feng was hesitating, his heart trembled. Another aura detection appeared. Again? Lin Feng pursed his lips. The first time could be a coincidence, but the second time was definitely not. His soul power and strength were not equal. The strength of his soul was due to the existence of the 10,000 origin mustard stone, but the other party had such an aura detection, at least a 4-star expert. Lin Feng was very clear. Such an expert was very dangerous. With the strength of his team, they might not be able to win even with 4 against 1. Not to mention the other party was definitely not alone. Here it comes. Lin Feng's face changed slightly. In his senses, the other party's aura was constantly approaching them at an extremely fast speed. He did not know the other party's intentions. But after 2 aura detections, this time it was definitely not simple. It would be fine if it was a normal time, but this was a new opportunity. He could sense it and calculate it. So there was no reason for the other party not to know. Even if the other party was not an enemy, he must be hostile. In a natural danger zone, there were countless cases of fighting for treasures and resources. It was normal to be killed without a backer. Lin Feng looked at the captain, who was still in high spirits. As usual the next day, the captain's beautiful face also showed surprise. Obviously, she also felt it. Although he did not know the other party's intentions, he did not come with good intentions. Trouble is coming. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. Chapter 1708. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The young master of the Black Ears clan, Yuan Qian, and the 4-star servant, Old White, arrived. Behind them were a group of 3-star young elites. They were responsible for accompanying the young master, Yuan Qian. They were also here to train and grow into the young master's left and right arms. There were a total of 18 people, and the atmosphere in the area was extremely tense. The evil or vein was only so big. Go! The young master of the Black Ears clan, Yuan Qian, calmly waved his hand. A group of 3-star young elites swarmed forward. Every one of them was as strong as the grass python, and their digging speed was extremely fast. Why? Captain Beijian's eyes widened, and his face turned pale. The grass python frowned, and a sharp light shot out his eyes. He quickly dug out the evil or vein, but he couldn't match the efficiency of a group of 3-star experts. Clang, clang, clang. After a series of clashing sounds, the huge, evil mineral vein was completely dug out in a flash. The group of 3-star Black Ear Clan young elites looked at Lin Feng and the other 3 with indifference and disdain. The young master of the Black Ears clan, Yuan Qian, sneered and glanced at them with disdain. Then, he turned and left. He came quickly and left quickly. Only a gust of wind and Beijian's group were left behind. Asterisk and hashtag. Beijian was so angry that his whole body trembled. He cursed the elf clan, and flames shot out of his eyes that could melt the earth. These evil or veins were his exclusive property, and now, someone was taking them away so openly. They were cutting off his flesh. Moreover, a huge piece of his flesh was cut off. Damn it! The grass python spat out a mouthful of phlegm, feeling somewhat sullen. No matter who it was, they wouldn't feel good about being robbed like this. They only got a little more than 10% of the evil or vain, and most of it was dug out before. As usual the next day, her delicate eyebrows furrowed, and she bit her lip and shouted, "How can they do this? This is too much." "Although it's a little against the rules, we can't do anything about it," Lin Feng said. In a naturally dangerous place, it was normal for the strong to snatch the things of the weak. The law of the jungle was that the strong preyed on the weak. Although origin awakened continents, major clans and powers generally had some tacit understanding. This was a tacit understanding and not a written rule. Even if he snatched it, he couldn't say anything. After all, everyone had seen that the treasures in the natural danger zone were ownerless, and only those who were fated to obtain them. Black-Ear's clan. Northern Stream was still so angry that his lips had turned purple and his eyes were burning with rage. If it was something else, he might not be so angry, but this was money. A lot of money. Just like your elf clan, a top-tier clan. The grass python glanced at the Northern Stream. It's different. As usual the next day, her small face was slightly pale, and her almond-shaped eyes stared into the distance. Just now, that young man was accompanied by a large entourage, and he even had a 4-star elder as his servant. He should be the Black-Ear's clan's young master. Bei Jian snorted coldly. Lin Feng nodded. Although they were both top-tier races, there was a huge difference in their statuses. Northern Stream was just an ordinary member of the elf tribe, but this young man was the young master of the Black-Ear's tribe. Their statuses and power were not on the same level. Moreover, the elf clan loved peace and would not stand up for their own people. However, the Black-Ear's clan was different. This was a half-human, half-demon clan. They had the intelligence of humans and the bloodthirstiness of demons. They were notorious, and it would be troublesome to provoke them. "Bear with it, you miser. You said it yourself." The grass python patted the Northern Stream on the shoulder and comforted him. "I know." Northern Stream gritted his teeth, and his voice became hoarse. "Don't worry, I'm fine." As usual the next day, she pursed her lips. Although she was angry and her face was pink, she was still charming. Lin Feng did not say anything from the beginning to the end. He just watched the scene quietly. He was the first to know that they were coming. Are they really just here to snatch the evil ores? Lin Feng still had a question mark in his heart. The Black-Ear's clan had investigated him twice, and they obviously had a purpose. Moreover, with that 4-star elder's sole power, it should not be difficult for him to find the evil ores, right? Why are they here to snatch it from us? Lin Feng thought to himself. He had a bad premonition, but he was not sure. On the other side, the Black-Ear's clan, who had just finished robbing Lin Feng, and the other 3, stopped. One is from the Elf clan, one is from the Great Earthman clan, one is from the Iluwa clan, and one is hard to tell. The 4-star elder, Old White, frowned. With his rich experience, he could tell the situation of the other party. A bunch of cowards. Yuan Qian's mouth twitched as he said disdainfully. Old White said, "Other than the Elf clan, the Great Earthman clan and the Iluwa clan are not to be feared. Moreover, the 4 of them do not have the symbol of the 8 great powers." In the Origin Awakened continent, one looked at the background, the clan, and the power. The former was the easiest to distinguish. After all, the characteristics of each clan could be seen at a glance. The 5 great clans and the 18 great clans were not to be trifled with. As for the power, the 8 great clans were the strongest. Even the 5 great clans had to think twice before provoking them. If they had a background, they would have reported their clan when they saw us robbing them. As the young master of the Black-Ear's clan, Yuan Qian was not stupid. Old White nodded and muttered, "However, there is a human who has been calm since the beginning. I can't see any fluctuations in his emotions. His expression is very strange." Yuan Qian sneered and said, "He must be scared silly." Old White said, "No, young master. This old man can't sense his aura." "What?" Yuan Qian's expression turned serious. He knew Old White's strength very well. Old White could sense any expert below the 4-star level, unless the opponent was stronger than Old White. However, the human youth didn't look like an expert. He is indeed not strong. Old White seemed to see Yuan Qian's doubts and said directly, "This old man is not afraid of his strength, but his background." Background? What background does a mere human have? Yuan Qian said disdainfully. Among the 18 great clans, there were very few humans. Old White shook his head and said, "It's better to be safe than sorry." Among the 5 great clans, there is a human clan that has always been mysterious. If he belongs to that human clan, with a serious expression, Old White frowned deeply. If he provoked the top clans, he could still be saved. If he provoked the 5 great clans, that would be courting death. It can't be, right? Yuan Qian was also surprised. The possibility is not high. Old White said, just as young master said, if he really has a background, he would have shown himself. After all, showing his face can save a lot of trouble. That's right. Yuan Qian nodded. Old White sighed and muttered, "Let's try a few more times to find out the real situation of this human. Anyway, they don't have as many people as we do. They can't snatch from us. There is no harm in letting them have some." It's decided. Yuan Qian waved his hand. Chapter 1709. Even though he was filled with anger, he still had to move on. To Lin Feng, being robbed of an evil or vein was a small matter. How much was an evil or vein worth? Therefore, he remained silent and wanted to see what the Black Ears were up to. The 4th evil or vein. Lin Feng's excavation speed was very fast. This time, as soon as they saw the evil or vein, everyone rushed forward eagerly to be the first to dig. Northern Stream, in particular, did not care about the elf race's weakness and directly attacked the evil or vein, taking the lead. The grass python went all out to maximize efficiency. As usual the next day, she even gave up on her guard and dug with all her might. After all, with Lin Feng around, she basically did not need to do anything. Even though she dug the slowest, she was still a force to be reckoned with. For now, every bit counted. However, good times did not last long. The Black Ears appeared again. They're here again. Lin Feng was also helpless. Even though he knew that the other party was doing it on purpose, what could he do? He could not beat them in a fight, nor could he provoke them. There was no point in telling them where he came from. He could only let them rob him. Northern Stream was so angry that their faces and necks turned red. They could only bury their heads and work hard. However, their efficiency was worlds apart from the 3-star elites of the Black Ears race. The elites of the Black Ears race were all strong and strong. Their excavation speed was not something that Northern Stream could compare to. Soon, the Black Ears clan members left with the fruits with a 90% chance of winning. Northern Stream was so angry that he went hysterical. As usual the next day, the grass python had nowhere to vent his anger. His face was tense, and he could not speak. Are they really not able to find it? So they're here to rob us? Or... Lin Feng's consideration was different from the other 3. Robbing an evil or vein was a small matter, but if the other party came for the lives of the 4 of them, it would be troublesome. I'm not digging anymore, damn it. Northern Stream was so angry that he sat down on the ground. As usual the next day scolded, "If you don't dig, they will." 18 people divided into 4 teams. They can find the evil or vein no matter how hard they try. Let's just chop them up. The grass python's face was full of anger. The giant axe on its back was already vibrating loudly. It could no longer restrain its temper. The Great Earthmang tribe was not docile at all. They were very warlike, and the grass python did not fear the Black Ears tribe at all. Even if you lose, you can't lose. Please don't. Although Northern Stream's expression was ugly, he still tried to dissuade the grass python. We can't afford to offend the Black Ears clan. Are we just going to let them rob us like this? The grass python widened its eyes. Northern Stream's face instantly turned bitter. There's nothing I can do. Why don't we just wait here and wait for them to finish digging? As usual the next day, he looked at him with disdain. Captain, how stupid are you to say something like that? This was called cupping one's hands in surrender. The longer we drag this out, the more disadvantageous it will be for us. Moreover, many other teams will discover this place, so it's better to take it as soon as possible. Often can we avoid them? as usual the next day asked. I'm afraid not. Lin Feng shook his head. Why? As usual the next day, he asked in confusion. Northern Stream and the grass python also looked over. Lin Feng replied, because they've been watching us. They'll follow us wherever we go. What? Everyone's expression turned ugly. This is too much. Northern Stream gritted his teeth so hard that they almost shattered. These bastards. The grass python's eyes turned red. Lin Feng sighed in his heart and looked at everyone. In my opinion, the best solution is to retreat in order to advance. We'll give them this place. No. How can we do that? Northern Stream and the other two said in unison as they looked at Lin Feng in shock. As usual the next day, they frowned and said, Often, we found this place first. Why should we give it to them? That's right. At the very least, we'll be able to take 10% of it, the grass python said. We can't give up. We can't give up no matter what. Northern Stream shook his head. Giving up this treasure mountain was more painful than killing him. Lin Feng also knew that it would be difficult to persuade them. After all, this wealth was too tempting for the three of them. Perhaps you haven't noticed, but I'm afraid that the Black Ears clan's goal isn't as simple as the evil or vain. Lin Feng said, the four-star elder among them has a high level of attainment in the soul. Moreover, the Black Ears clan have a large number of people. They can split up and search for the evil or vain instead of waiting here. That's very inefficient. Everyone's heart sank. Lin Feng continued, in my opinion, they are now testing our strength. If we continue to tolerate and give in, it is very likely that they will want to kill us. At that time, it will be too late to leave. It's better to retreat in order to advance. We'll let them scheme again. Northern Stream and the other two fell silent. They knew that Lin Feng's words made sense. However, they couldn't bear to give up just like that. The three of them began to discuss. Lin Feng didn't disturb them, nor did he participate. He had said enough. It was up to them to decide. With his current strength, he didn't have much say. They might not listen to him. As expected, Brother Lin's words make sense, but Northern Stream didn't say anything for a long time. I don't believe they dare to attack us. Grass Python patted his chest. Our great Earth Barbarian tribe is not to be trifled with. Moreover, the Black Ears clan dares to attack the Elf clan? Humph, they must be tired of living. In the ranking of the top clans, the Elf clan was above the Black Ears clan. As usual the next day, he said softly, why don't we wait and see? Lin Feng nodded. He respected their opinions. After all, this was just his speculation. It might not be true. Moreover, there was no avoiding this problem. It had to be solved. It was possible to avoid it now, but for how long? Would the Black Ears clan leave after excavating the evil or vain? It was more likely that the Black Ears clan would gather the strongest of their clans and enter the inner area to dig out the real treasure. His suggestion was to ask them to give up this opportunity. It was indeed a bit difficult. Even he himself didn't want to do that. It's troublesome. Lin Feng sighed. If he was strong enough, he would have attacked already. The fifth piece, the sixth piece, the seventh piece, Lin Feng kept excavating the evil or vain. The Black Ears clan didn't hold back and shamelessly snatched it. They took advantage of their numbers to snatch it. Lin Feng and the other three couldn't do anything. They could either give up, but if they gave up, they wouldn't even get 10% of the harvest. If they didn't give up, they would only benefit others. They were in a dilemma. Damn it! Northern Stream roared as his entire body exploded with energy. His eyes were bloodshot, and the bough behind him was already glowing with light. His evil or vain had been snatched away again and again, and he was already furious. He could no longer hold back his temper. Captain! Lin Feng pressed Northern Stream's hand. Northern Stream panted heavily and stared at Lin Feng. I can't take it anymore. Lin Feng pursed his lips and was about to speak when something suddenly appeared in front of them.